Do you have any notes for me?
Thank you, EJ.
You could try this
Okay.
episode.
Okay.
You know.
Stop phoning it in.
Yeah, I just think you don't care.
Stop phoning it in.
Like, try.
Hello, you beautiful freaks. I'm your host, EJ Leeson, and welcome to a brand new episode of Freakquels. And with me, as always, my co-host, Rory Roughneck Calarasi. How you doing, buddy?
It seemed like for a second you forgot my name.
I did.
There was a pause.
I was like, who is this man?
It was uncomfortable for me.
Who's this man
like-
next to me? I forget who he is.
I felt like you were slipping away.
I am. I'm slowly slipping away.
Yeah.
And of course, our podkeeper, he shakes, rattles, and baby rolls. Young Vince, what's up, baby?
How you doing, dude?
Good. How about you?
I feel a little under the weather, but we're gonna get through this. It's okay.
You
I like
just had
the
band practice, right?
We had band
Yesterday?
practice yesterday. It was a lot of fun.
Is that why you're under the weather?
I don't know. I think hanging out with like 5 and 6-year-old kids.
COVID?
Yeah,
You
there's
got
that
COVID.
little bit. It's okay. I'm like,
COVID.
One in this room's going down.
yeah. I can't.
We're all different.
Thanks, Vince.
Great.
I can't wait for you guys to be
wait.
sick next week.
Fuck you, Vince.
Fuck you, Vince. And we have a super awesome guest, first time guest actually, and instant fan favorite, I would say.
I already like them.
Yes, and we've been friends for a really long time, since like 2008.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, and we met at the 279. Right? Is that
Yeah, that's correct.
And
In the
then-
break room.
Yes, in the break room, talking about comic books. And
Do you remember which comic book?
a radical right winger.
This movie's right on my alley. That's why I say you got me in here.
Yeah, that's how we got you here, because of
A
this
fascist
movie.
fanatic.
Casey Clocker, what's up, buddy? How you
How's it
doing?
going? It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm
I
happy to be
know.
here.
This is your first podcast you're ever doing, right?
Correct. Yeah, I've really never set foot in front of a microphone before, but we'll get through this.
We'll get through this. No, which is crazy to me because
This is edited, right?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, no, we are talking about one of the craziest movies that I got to see this as a kid. This is a movie my dad took me to see in theaters, and I was excited because I loved RoboCop, and I knew the director was directing this, and so I was like, "Oh, I'm on board. I want to see that movie." And I remember watching it and going, I love this movie. And then my dad took me. I bought like the action figures that like went along with this movie. And then the more I watched it growing up, the more I understood it. And like, I love this movie.
But it's like a movie that shouldn't have action figures.
Right. This is totally. Well, RoboCop had action figures.
Another movie that probably shouldn't have had action figures.
There's literally a guy melting from toxic waste, gets run over, and just turns into like just a mist.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Paul Verhoeven, the master of violence in cinema. My first memory of this movie, I had snuck in to see I Know You Did last summer with Caitlin. And I remember seeing the trailer for this, and you know, like when the big giant bug rises up out of the ground?
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to see this right now. Yeah. That looked like the coolest movie in the world.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and how
First
about you?
impression.
What was
Yeah,
your-
I actually have a story about the beginnings of this movie too. So this movie came out when I was like about 12, 13 years old, and one of like the more popular kids in my like elementary school had his birthday party there. And naturally, you know, being popular myself, I was not invited. So this became like the social event of the year. So everyone talked about this movie all the time because they wanted to be associated with this, you know, popular birthday party. So, not invited. I'll watch this on home video. So yeah. So it was one of those things where just to kind of like fit in, like, you know, I was like, I got to see this movie. And so I did, and I actually ended up like really liking it. So as a kid, I was probably way too young to be watching this, but I probably like one summer watched it like 10, 20 times.
Yeah.
When you went back to school, were you like, "Hey guys, I saw it too. Shut up, nerd."
They never mentioned it again.
Never again.
I was prepped. I had all the lines
Oh, we've
memorized.
moved on.
Yeah.
We're in a Titanic now.
We're into the faculty now.
Oh man. What about the Roughnecks, guys?
You have like a T-shirt on, just trying to impress everyone. The Starship Troopers T-shirt.
I was in a chat room of Roughnecks, and
I had notes. I was going to talk about this.
No one came. But how about you, Vince? Is this your first time?
This is the first time I watched it. I found it very enjoyable. It was a fun movie. It was a dumb fun movie. I about halfway through it, I remember texting you guys because I paused it. I did my 20-minute thing, which wasn't that bad. When I got 20 minutes through, I was like, okay, this is not that bad. And then at a certain point, I got up to do something, and I paused the movie, and I texted you guys. I was like, I'm only halfway through this. How is that even possible? It's so long. It could have cut some stuff out of it, but no, overall, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'll watch it again.
Yeah.
So for as long as I've known you, which
Yes.
has been going on
Too long.
way too long.
Yeah.
How many times have I said the words
Starship Troopers, and you
watch
need to
Starship
watch
Troopers?
a lot
Out
of times.
nowhere.
Yeah, out of no. Yeah, a lot.
A lot.
You've said it, and you're right. I should have watched it earlier than I had watched it.
So we haven't talked at all about your experience
No.
watching it, so I'm so excited.
saving it for
to
the
talk
pod,
to you
baby.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all content.
I can't wait. Really fast, did you guys see any new movies this week? Besides Starship Troopers.
No, but I'm gonna do my thing and go off the rails. Pearl Jam has a new album coming out. First song was just released 2 days ago, I think. It's called Dark Matter. Wow, vintage Pearl Jam. Check it out.
You could have just said, "No, I didn't see any new movies."
No,
Either.
Rory, I love to hear the sound of my own voice. What are you not getting about this?
I like those in your voice too.
Now you know I've seen a movie this week.
Yes.
Wait, okay, so we always talk about background. So you said how you know EJ. How do you know Rory? Through EJ?
Through EJ, yeah.
Well, as long as
Okay.
they've been friends, we've been mortal enemies.
Yeah. We were just
That sounds right for everybody that comes in here.
just competing for that like echelon of top tier friend of EJ, right?
I was actually that kid who had the birthday party.
And you didn't invite him? What a dick.
I was like, well, it's the let's not invite Casey Clocker party.
It was
It's quite common growing up.
No, but we met. It was instant, like friends at first sight, because we were talking about Wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That movie was coming out.
The Angelina Jolie joint and Chris
Yeah.
Pratt, which you guys challenged me on, and I had to prove you wrong. But yeah, go ahead.
And he was like, "Yeah, that's a comic." And then I was like, "Oh, I never read it." And then the next day, you literally brought it in.
Yeah.
I read it, and then from there on, we just talked about comic books, movies, because we have so much in common in terms of like all the stuff we like, music and stuff too.
Nice.
Yeah. And then
And Rory just hopped on.
Rory just hopped on the bandwagon.
That's what it does.
I remember meeting Casey. I'd heard about Casey for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I met you, and I had one of those things when I went home, and I'm like, man, I really hope he liked me. Hope I didn't blow it.
And when did you guys first meet? I forgot.
I would say that Rory and I kind of met and started connecting more after I moved back from New York City.
Yeah.
We kind of established that we were going to play like a weekly game night or whatever.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that was really
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then
Yeah.
D&D,
Yeah.
which is another one of those things where it was like I was laughing so hard because of all the scenarios you were coming up with. Like we still quote them.
Oh yeah.
Like we still
my
quote
gosh.
them. She
Yeah.
and I quote them. Oh,
Oh.
Becca's sitting next to me, by the way, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, Becca.
One quote Casey threw out during game night is, "That's a good speed to have." I still say that. Like to this day, I'll go, "That's a good speed to have."
Yeah.
But also, what's that 12 for? Like
Yeah,
when
what's
we
that
were
12
beating
for?
up that one. Now,
But seriously, mortal enemies.
Mortal Enemies. No, when we were
could you-
playing D&D, Casey literally had like this plethora of voices, and it was like the best DM you could ever have, because he literally just gave so much character. It's a little, even if it was like a side character, there was so much that you're like, you bought into the world.
There's a line you had that I was thinking about the other day.
I'm so glad that you all remember them because it just when
you're
I
like-
talk, it just comes out and then it's instantly forgotten. So the fact that
universe.
yeah,
My
exactly. The
character
fact
was-
that someone retained it makes me so happy.
My character was trying to hawk something, and you were like, "It's just not worth coin." And I don't know. I just think about that all the time.
That and just your crazy antics of setting things on fire.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Chris Conforti and I were always burning everything up.
Yes.
That was our D&D move.
It's so funny because like since we kind of stopped playing and if we ever were to reestablish that game, I have learned so much on how to like redirect that to prevent that from happening again.
Because I was always like everybody else would be like trying to.
There's
think
a lot
of
of there's a lot of literature online of
strategy.
like what to do from the people that are detracting from the game.
I just remember before we even played D&D, Casey saying because you were like, hey, Rory was like, let's do D&D. I always wanted to try it, whatever. And Casey was like, I never wanted to cross that bridge. Like I was always into like the geekdom, like nerdy things, but that always felt like the heroin. Like that was like, well, that's too far.
You don't want to mess
You know
with
what it
that
is?
shit.
It's an escape valve. It's like that. It's like that latch where it's like, you know what? I might like this and that and anime, but look at those people over there.
Right.
I'm not them. Right?
I remember one time saying to Roy, I was like, "Do you like anime?" And he's like, "No, not really." I was like, "Oh, thank God, you're weird enough."
No, but yeah, he was like Casey was like, I'm just never gonna cross that bridge. Like,
And
that,
that-
yeah,
Yeah, you
And
can't
then-
unscramble an egg at that point.
Yeah.
And then we did, and we had like the best time ever.
D&D is fun.
Yeah,
It's basically improv.
yeah. It was, and we literally there would be nights where we're just like laughing so hard, just due to like what Casey came up with, like the whole chicken run and Grumble Snitch, right?
Yeah,
I think that was his name.
And liking people's speed.
Right, and yeah, and then we would just be like going home laughing and coming up with like, oh my God, remember how funny this was?
It's a good time.
It was amazing. But
Did you see any movies?
did you see any movies this week?
You know what? To speed this along, I saw Madam Web, and at any point you want to stop and turn this into a Madam Web podcast, I am
go.
in.
We're locked and loaded.
Yeah, you saw it too, right?
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that the only movie you saw?
Yeah. Actually, that's probably one of the, I guess, 2 movies I've seen in 2024. I think. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, what
How
was
about
the
you?
other one?
Iron Claw,
Oh, and which was awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my
Great.
tops of the year for sure.
Great movie.
Yeah.
How about you?
I saw Madam Web, which was awesome. Ish. And then I also saw Amelie for the first time.
Okay.
Because like they did the 25th anniversary, and it was a movie I always wanted to see, but I just never got around to it. Like I always wanted to rent it, or at least like stream it, and I finally got to see it on the big screen, and it was so worth it. I actually went to see it twice because it was like definitely one of my favorite movies.
I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember seeing it 20 years ago now, and
Yeah.
really, really, really enjoying it.
Yeah, I loved it. How about you?
I saw a few. I saw this
Shock.
movie called El Condi.
Oh,
I'm probably saying it wrong, but that's what it's called.
Okay.
It was like nominated for cinematography,
Oh, all right.
and it's beautiful looking. It kind of looks like do you ever see like Ansel Adams photography?
Yeah.
Kind of looks like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I saw Anatomy of a Fall.
Oh, how was that? Because I know that's up
It's
for a
funny
bunch of
because
Oscars
this happened to
and
me
stuff.
twice in my life, where I said that's probably going to be like a Criterion movie. Yes, Vince, drink.
Shot.
It was one of those movies where I'm like, that's probably going to end up in the Criterion collection, and then literally like 2 days later, they're like, May lineup. Anatomy of a Fall. I saw the Bob Marley movie.
Oh yeah,
Bob Marley, One Love.
yeah. Did you like it?
I
I saw it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like they're just like the lead performance was amazing. Like I loved that performance. I just don't know if he had enough happen to him in his life to warrant a 2-hour movie, or at least they didn't focus up on the right things, because it just felt a little like the front and the and like maybe like the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes were like really good, and then the middle it's just kind of like, well, what do we do? We're making those albums you're aware of.
Right.
Little to
Exodus
no
and stuff.
consequence.
Yeah.
But then I also saw Madam Web.
Okay.
I saw we just went and saw the.
Whoa, how'd you feel about Madam Web?
Yeah,
blow right
you guys
past
just
that.
like blew past it, and I'm like waiting to hear like your thoughts on Madam Web.
I'll just take a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
I would just say that it's one of those movies that's like everyone's losing their mind over, talking about how terrible it is, and I thought it was stupidly entertaining.
Yeah, I thought there was a good movie in there somewhere. That at some point there was something there that could have been good. I think the details it kind of got a little lost on.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like not a great movie, and sometimes I'm okay with that. Like you can watch something like Anatomy of a Fall and be like, "That's a great movie," and then watch something like Madam Web and you're like, "That was a movie."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, actually, I forgot a movie I saw. I actually saw Anyone But You, and I felt very similar to that. Where when I was in college, I had to do something on Much Ado About Nothing. So I was like familiar enough with that like source material that when I had heard that movie was like a Much Ado About Nothing redux, I was like, oh, I'm interested in this, and it was enjoyable. But was it great? By no means, right? But I didn't hate it either.
Seen a lot of Sydney Sweeney these days, huh?
Yeah, it was weird. I had never watched the show that she was on HBO. I can't even think of the name.
Euphoria?
Euphoria. Yeah.
I've
I
never
couldn't think
seen
of
it
it. So
either.
I was completely unaware of like I knew that she was obviously getting more and more popular, but I'd not really seen any of her work. And then it was like 2 in a row. I saw 2 movies. So.
Yeah.
I liked parts of Madam Web.
Yeah.
I think if you kind of edit out the villain's background
Horrible.
a little bit,
Maybe the worst ever. Like,
Right.
the villain.
Did it sound like they dubbed him?
They did,
Like it was like an
yeah.
Italian movie
Yeah.
that they like put like American dubbing over.
Obviously can't go too much into, but I think there's like a documentary about some of the disasters about that movie. But I think they had to do reshoots, and I
Yeah.
think some of his story was wrong, and they had to like redub that, and that's why like what he's saying does not match up what his lip. And they didn't even try. Like that was like
Right.
it was like hilariously bad.
yeah,
But like that also kind of made it fun for me. Because like whenever
yeah.
he would show up on screen, he'd be like, "I have to get her now." It just sounded so silly.
No,
Yeah.
like
Or just the way,
was like-
or just the way that he talked
Yeah.
was just so weird. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was a
but
weird
again,
cadence,
it kind of
like-
made me like the movie a little bit more than most people. I don't know.
who is that with her?
But
on
we
the train?
went and saw the re-release of Dune from like 1984.
Okay.
Fun.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff. And then finally, we watched a shit ton of SpongeBob.
It's
That's all I got.
very good, very cool.
What was your favorite part of SpongeBob?
Yes.
I always liked when he goes to that one town and he's trying to catch a bus back home, and they're like, I don't understand your accent. Like, I don't know. That to me is like legendary.
Hey, you guys
so
want
dumb.
a segue?
Yeah.
So Mr. Krabs happens to be in the movie we're talking about
Yes,
today,
he
Mr.
is.
Clancy Brown.
That's beautiful.
Yes, he is.
That's good work.
Yeah, that is good.
It's almost like I've been
work.
editing these episodes.
No, Clancy Brown, really quick, amazing in this.
I love him in general.
Just in everything he does he's always great.
I thought he was like spectacular in Dexter.
Yeah.
Like,
Some of the
love
side
him.
characters, we'll probably call them out as we go. Just
Right.
give some truly amazing performances here.
Yes.
yes. yes.
I'm waiting on one. I don't know if you have realized, but I got one like locked in the holster, like ready to put.
We might be on the same
Yeah,
page.
I think
we'll
so.
find
It's
out.
early, so we're gonna know in the
I
next
think
5
we're
minutes.
talking about the same person.
I think so too.
So I feel Shawshank came out in '94, and I
94.
think this came out in '96. So I feel like was it '97?
97.
As soon as that came out, they were like, he has to play this role because he's perfect in that.
Oh, he's
It's the same character as Shawshank, but it's just awesome.
He's like a little more likable.
I'd say, and it's turned up to like 12.
But yeah, let's dive into this movie and we'll like talk about
And
it.
what
as we
movie
go.
are we talking about today?
We are talking about the 1997 Paul Verhoeven classic Starship Troopers. One of the best sci-fi movies of that decade.
The movie that was brave enough not to wink at its audience.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, so this movie begins with a propaganda pro-military commercial. And it kind of honestly sets up a lot of the story and tone of the film really well. And so it goes into like, like how the Klondatu planet...
Klondatu.
Yes, and there's all this broadcast team following the military that just landed to attack the bugs, and right away the action starts, and we see it definitely didn't fare well for like the soldiers. So you just see them getting like clipped off like left and right. And
It's
Johnny
essentially
Rico,
like a World War II propaganda reel.
right. Yeah, which is so crazy.
So I did see that Paul Verhoeven said that there was actually Nazi propaganda that he had watched prior, that he wanted to make that scene like almost shot for shot. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but I guess there is like a direct inspiration for that opening like propaganda scene. I think it just all falls apart though, because the newscaster is then cut in half by one of the bugs, and the cameraman films it. Like, you would think that at this point, if you're filming propaganda, you'd be like, cut it. No, he's like right in there, like, oh, we got to see the bar is split in two.
You know, though, it's weird because nowadays I could totally see that happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a snuff film at that point.
I kind of liked it because, in a sense, they were showing like, okay, we could show it what propaganda is. These are all the wonderful things that you can get by doing this, but they never show the bad shit that's going to happen to you. So they were like, unedited, this is what happens, like whether you like it or not. I also love that opening shot. What is it, like 3/4 of the way through the movie, they show that shot being shot.
Yeah.
I love when they do that in a movie.
Oh, yeah. And so from the perspective of the cameraman, we're seeing all this happen.
And then you
but
get to
later
see,
on,
I love
you see,
that.
like the cinematic
Is there a
view
term
of
for
it.
that? There's probably not a term for that. I
In
bet
media
there is.
race is obviously like when it starts like mid-action, but then
Yeah.
kind of flashes back to it. So,
I loved
don't
it,
know.
though. It was good.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah. So then
It's funny, too, because it's just kind of like they're showing that footage, and it's probably meant to enrage the viewers. Like, those bugs, you know.
They killed our... Yeah.
But then you get to see everything leading up to it, and it's like there's little hints throughout this movie that like the humans maybe started this war.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
and it's like,
absolutely.
but they're
Yeah.
like completely controlling people with media the way that
With the
we
propaganda.
ourselves
Yeah.
are.
From a
Right.
movie making perspective, though, one of the questions I have when I watched this movie was the team that created like these propaganda videos, right? Like it's not really until the end that we see the main cast in one of them, right? And it's like, were they aware of like the tone of the movie? Because I definitely think there's a mismatch between the vignettes that you see throughout the movie and then the actual movie itself, where like the vignettes are very much leaning into the propagandas. They're always showing the uniform, the eagle, right? Like it's very, very obvious. And I think that the rest of the movie is a little bit more dialed back in terms of like its overt propaganda, like advertisement.
Yeah. Maybe because they don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
Of what's being...
Well, they probably just were like raised into this like war society. That this is probably just like normal for them.
Yeah, I will say though, there is something about this that I rewatch now that I didn't get as a kid, obviously, that I feel like it was kind of one of the weak parts of the movie, and that is, throughout the whole movie, they're talking about, citizenship being so important, right? But Rico's family clearly is affluent, right? So they have money, and they don't want him to be a citizen. They think it's like almost like a con, right? So there's like a mishmash there, right? Because it seems like the wealthy elite don't care at all about the citizenship, whereas like to a lot of the other people, like it's like the most important part. And I feel like, at least in terms of the storytelling in the movie, it kind of falls apart at some points, because like you meet the girl in the shower scene and she talks about she wants to have babies, right? But it's like, well, so she has to serve to have kids, but these rich people clearly, they have Rico, right? And like they clearly didn't serve. So like, what's going on there?
Are you saying that there's a different set of rules for rich people? I don't believe that.
And I think that's why something about this movie about like being a little mismatch, right? Because like, like a lot of it has this like fascist propaganda and stuff, but like there are other parts of it where it just completely falls apart because it just doesn't even make sense within the world that they have built.
Well, how about this? Just something. Is it possible that his dad did serve, and maybe that's why he has the attitude that he has?
So the answer to that, I would say, is probably no. And the only reason I bring it up, and I'll bring it up a couple times, is I did read the synopsis of the book, and the book is very similar about him having the fallout with the father. But the father actually survives the Buenos Aires meteor.
Oh, interesting.
And there's a part in the book where like he reconnects with the father after the death of the mother, like enlists. And like the father is like a minor character in the book. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
If I knew how to read, I would look into that.
Yeah. It's one of those ones where if you were to just go to Wikipedia and read the plot synopsis, that's what I did. So if I sound like I know anything,
Even
100%.
book today.
I read a cursory glance of what happened in this.
Even that's too much reading for us.
But like
Wicca what?
if I just put the plot of the book versus the plot of the movie just on paper and you read it, you would say, oh, the movie has a superior plot, right? So for whatever differences there are in the book, I do think that the movie ended up making probably better choices that the book just didn't have.
Sure.
Right.
I will also say that it's likely that even in that world, if you are wealthy, the rules are probably different.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They're going on
That's
vacation.
how I would have wrote that off initially.
They're going on vacation to the Outer Rings.
Zegama Beach.
Zegama Beach.
Zegama Beach.
Do you think that's close?
Gear.
That ain't close.
Zegama Beach. I love that line reading.
There's always that, they bring it back to, like, it's like that's how it's, like, exclusively said in this movie.
Yeah, Zegama Beach. We should just get, like...
A Zegama Beach
shirts.
party?
Yeah, like, shirts made for Zegama Beach.
Or, like, spring break. Like,
Zegama Beach.
2700.
27.
Zegama Beach.
Let's go. But yeah, so we flash to 1 year earlier, before, like, all this carnage just happened. And we see where Johnny Rico, who we kind of met in the video briefly, he is in high school and he's in class and he's busy doodling a picture of him and Carmen, aka Denise Richards. And while he's doing this, the teacher is explaining citizenship.
How awesome violence is and how it solves everything.
Everything. Yes.
That's what's like. I feel like that scene there sums up the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
And he's not the only person that teaches in the school. We meet like two teachers.
Blanche?
And both of
That's
them.
who you were going to go
Absolutely.
for, right?
I'm emptying the bullets in the holster.
Casey, we can still talk about it. We're going to get there.
Can you imagine? It's like, hey, Blanche, you want to be in this movie? What are you going to do? I just wear weird goggles and stand in front of cockroaches. What's awesome? And like laugh weird.
I got really cool scars.
She's got like a Simon Bar sinister look going on. From, like,
Was she
underdog.
burned by the spit?
That's what's interesting about all the teachers in the school. They're all like horribly disfigured.
Yeah,
They're
military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dude at the desk when they're saying what they're going to do, the pilot, that he has the metal arm and then he pulls away and he's got no
It's like, well, infantry made me the man I am
Yeah.
today. And it's just like, his legs are gone.
Yeah.
But like all
Yeah,
the teachers, like they've
arm.
all served and
Yeah.
they're all
half the
they
man
all
he used
paid
to
the
be.
price for it, you know?
Yeah. And so
I just would love to know what happened to Blanche. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's like-
seriously.
she's got like
Eyes
Dr.
are
Octopus
like-
goggles on. And
Yeah.
But I feel like the bugs that they're dissecting are not the arachnids. These are just either from
random.
Earth or another planet.
I think they
Or
actually
like,
came from Zegama Beach.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they
Zegama
dug them up.
But
What if it wasn't in war though? What if it was like something completely not related to the war that she got those scars? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. She was like
At Zegama
baking,
Beach.
making toast in the
Yeah, she was the home ec
toaster.
teacher first, and she's had a horrible baking
Yeah.
accident.
She used to have this
Just
thing
something.
she used to do at parties where she'd juggle acid.
Yeah, something like that.
Too much sun
But can
at
we-
Zegama Beach.
Can we talk about this day in school though? Because like I
Yes.
love the movie trope of like not another teen movie does a great job of this where they like cram a year's worth of activity, but
Yeah.
like just the order of operations of this, right? So they have the class,
Yes.
then they get the results of the math final. So
Right.
finals have already happened.
Right.
But now they're gonna go and have a dissection. So now they're gonna be a part of a science like, and then there's the big game,
Right. The prom.
and then the prom. Which by the way, I thought the prom was just for like one school, and then Carmen's like, "Hey Xander, you going to this?" Like, why would he be invited to that dance? He
Why
at school.
is he allowed to go? Because he comes off like he's at least a couple of years older.
Yeah. So that is a weird part about this because he's like, "I ship out tonight," but like they ship out tomorrow. So how is he so far ahead? Like, what did he do in that 24 hours? That like just this trajectory within the
Fast
Fleet
track.
Academy. Yeah. What a dynamo.
Dynamo. Yeah, so we have like the teacher explaining citizenship versus civilians and why one can vote and the others can't. And it basically comes down to force and violence, which I thought that was kind of interesting because that also sets up this world where you understand that if you do become a citizen, you have the right to vote. But if you're just a civilian, you have like no say in elections at all. And I do love Dizzy because it says like, oh, you know, my mom says violence isn't the answer. He's like, it's always the answer.
It's always.
Michael
the only
Ironside is like awesome in this movie too.
He's a neat character.
Yeah, I love him,
And
then-
he's super likable.
yeah.
throughout the entire movie. Yeah.
Oh, I think he carries this movie. That like he.
Yeah, he
is-
definitely
is
helps
the,
it,
Like
yeah.
the like one of the like the driving forces of this whole film.
I feel like there's like some part of him that like understands that this is the way the world is, but he also has like some kind of reservations with it.
Which is why the one line is, such and such teacher said this, and he's talking to his dad, and he's like, oh, he probably pushes. He's like, no, actually, he discourages people from enlisting.
Yeah.
What I always found interesting about this, though, is they go through this and like they're kind of setting up like the motivations and stuff, but none of the characters, at least at this point in the story, believe in this. Johnny's going to join because he wants to follow Carmen, right? So Carmen does believe, but like her ideals are not.
She wants to be
true.
a pilot.
Yeah, she likes the idea of space,
Yeah.
not the idea of war. Diz is going to join because of Johnny. So and really Carl is going to join just because of the weird psychic element.
I think he's 100% in that cause.
Neil Patrick Harris?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think he believes in what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's also psychic, so he knows more than everybody
right,
else.
Yeah. When we revisit that character later on in the story, because like I when I watch it this time, I definitely have different thoughts about him throughout the entire movie. Like even with the way he creepily approaches Diz at the prom.
At the dance?
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah.
Because my whole thing with him was like at the beginning he has this psychic ability, so I feel like no matter where he is, he knows people's vibes and what's going on and what's going on through their head, and he'll get away with anything.
Yeah, well, I mean,
because he'll know that he can do this or he can't do this.
Right.
Rory, you brought it up a good point of like what is the point of this war? Like where we really are never going to even establish like the you know like the causes of it and stuff, the origins, right? But it's like when we meet Carl, he cruelly puts Rico's results on the screen. He has his ferret attack his mom.
Yes,
he kind of creepily approaches Diz, right? This is a character that isn't on the up and up, right?
Doesn't he also lie when he's trying to get him to do the card thing?
Yeah,
and
I
he
think
says
so, yeah.
he says, what do you see? And he says Ace of Spades, and the Ace of Spades pops up on the screen, and he goes, no, you didn't get it right.
Yeah, he's not shy from cruelty, and that's going to come back later when
he
you know
shows
his
up
motivations are going to be what
Right.
he's doing when he's issuing the orders.
He's also dressed like an SS officer.
Oh,
when you
absolutely!
see him later.
Of all the like the Nazi uniforms, his is by far the most. You
Yeah,
know,
just when you didn't think the Nazis could get any sharper,
They get Neil Patrick
they
Harris.
get Neil Patrick Harris.
I mean, this movie's kind of brave, finally shedding some light on how awful those Nazis were.
It's about time.
Yeah, about time.
But yeah, we see where eventually Carl, Neil Patrick Harris, is trying to do this test with Johnny about the psychic cards, and it just seems like Johnny is on this like downward slope. Like he tries to go for Carmen, she's not really like receptive to him and kind of rejecting him.
He's not getting along with his parents.
He's bombing math, obviously.
No, he thinks he's doing great.
Right.
but
35,
But
awesome.
ironically, in Radchick's class, he had the line from the text memorized by heart. Right?
heart.
So
Because there's certain things
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
he just naturally has.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
He's a born soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll probably talk about this a little bit more later when we're done with the story, but Johnny's arc fascinates me.
Just how.
It's backwards almost.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like well, I'll just say it now. He starts off and he's kind of this like idealistic, hopeful, romantic, and then by the time you get to the end of the movie and you see him, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's just like
even I was gonna bring this up like later.
He's a
too.
weapon.
Yeah, he's just
Yeah.
like they turn
Him into a
monster.
weapon. Yeah.
And I was gonna bring this up later, but I might as well bring it up now. You watch if you put like a still from the beginning of Carl to Carl at the end, like Carl has a very youthful look to him.
The
But
bags,
by the
Yeah,
end,
yeah.
dark
he has
bags
all
under
those,
his
like,
eyes.
bags and almost like a
All that
skeleton.
knowledge and that truth he probably understands about the war, about the world that other people aren't
Right.
entitled. You know what I mean?
That's kind of like, I don't know, not to go completely off. You ever see pictures of presidents
Yeah, I know.
on their first day
yeah.
versus the last day of their fourth year?
Yeah.
They age like 8 years in 4 years. It's insane.
I remember like it was like the last day Obama was in office. I'm like, what did you see?
Could you imagine?
Yeah, I definitely wanna come back to it.
In all honesty, I don't.
No,
that
yeah.
sounds.
I definitely want to come back to it later because I want to go, hopefully go through the story first. But like,
Right.
I think there's a big. Carl mentions in the scene with the psychic where he's talking about the next stage of human evolution, right? And I think that right there, it actually kind of sets up a paradigm between him and the brain bug. And I think at the end of the movie, we could probably look into that a little bit more. But
Sure.
Like, yeah,
Right.
I definitely think because they both have similar mannerisms that are closer than you would think.
Like that seek of like knowledge in trying to
Understanding.
Understand their
Absolutely.
enemy.
Yep.
Yeah. So we finally see Johnny excel in jump ball, a mixture of like football and gymnastics. And Carmen meets a guy on the like the opposing team, and is super impressed by Xander, because he immediately is like, "Yeah, I got into the Fleet Academy." She's like, "Wow, really?" He's like, "Yeah," and
It's that easy.
that easy.
She's all over the map in this.
Yeah, because her dream is like to career in piloting for Fleet Academy and stuff. And so we see where Johnny wins the game, and
I'd love the line in any of these movies. Just throw me the damn ball.
just throw me the damn ball.
Just throw
And
the
we
ball.
see the dynamic between him and Diz, like they don't have the chemistry like romantically,
So-
but physically, like that chemistry is there. Like they work well as a team.
So he explained it to me because of the multiple times that we've talked about this movie, and he just continued to talk to me about it, even though I've never seen it.
Even when he begged me to
Even
stop.
when he begged me, even when I was like, just stop talking about it. He's like, yeah, there's this really interesting love triangle, but it's not
square.
really a love triangle. It's more of a love square. And I didn't get it, but after watching it, I get it now. I know exactly what you're
It's
talking
the
about.
most depressing, like,
It's-
romantic dynamic of all
Yeah.
time, because it's like, I mean,
He
you could
likes her,
say,
but-
like, you could read that ending as being like, oh wow, Johnny got the girl that he wanted, right? Neither one of them ended up with the person they should have ended up with,
Right.
You know, like they like went. Well, I mean, again, not to jump ahead, but like when Xander, meets his end, and he, like, Johnny saves her, and they're running to safety, and then like there's like that cave in, and she just turns around and she's just devastated.
Yeah.
Because it's like the love of her life essentially just like died.
Died.
Yeah.
You know? Because like what you just said, like you're like she was all over the place, but I always just felt like Carmen knew exactly where she wanted to be, where she was going. She's very practical about everything.
Yeah.
Like even like, well, let's just not go too far.
Yeah.
So we
get
get
back
the
to it.
quick
It's like
scene
9 years
about,
there.
Zygma Beach. At home, Johnny's parents aren't crazy about him joining the federal service military, especially his father. His father's like, I want you to go to Harvard. I want you to like live this life. And
Actually live your life. Be alive for your life. That's all his
and
dad wanted.
He's like, I'd rather take like public lashings than to ever join the military, which is weird because later on, Johnny Rico actually receives public
and
lashings.
you will meet another character going to Harvard at the same time, right? So like there's
who want that's
Yeah.
his
Wants to
goal.
go,
Yeah.
but he can't go. But
Right.
the going to the
Oh,
military
that's
would pay for
interesting. I
it.
never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like that one character who's just like, oh, I have to serve to get there, and then
Yeah.
Johnny just, it's like, here it is.
Johnny's
It's
there
on
because of a
planet.
girl. He doesn't give a
Yeah.
crap about Harvard, right? Like
Right.
Is Johnny
Yeah.
there for a girl, or is he there because like that's his destiny? Like he was meant to do this.
There's a partial like so I think he doesn't want the life that his parents have. I think he does want to make himself
He wants
like,
to be his own
do something
person.
for himself.
Yeah.
Like without the help of anybody. But also, I think it is because of Carmen.
Yeah.
There's
you know?
also-
Like,
he could hit the varsity blue line. Like if he was so close to being James Vanderbeek here.
I don't want your life.
Yeah, exactly. He would have had that like 2 years early. Would have changed Casper's entire career.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But yeah.
But do you feel like even just at that scene when he's in class and he's talking to Michael Ironside, and he asks him if he understands a text, and he's like, I don't understand. Like, I always just got a sense that Johnny's just lost.
Yes.
And Carmen's something that he understands, and he's like, it's like something that feels safe, and one thing that he does have eyes for, so he chases after her. But like, I think he may have ended up in military anyways, because he did seem like he didn't want to go to Harvard. He didn't want to live like his parents, as you guys were saying.
He did want to go to Zegma Beach though.
He did want to go to Zegma Beach.
Yeah, but I think it also touches on like he's just a kid in high school.
Yeah.
And later on, like I kind of make a reference to this, but he gets those new recruits and he's like, oh, they're all kids, and they actually casted like real teenagers for that part, and you see like how he aged, and he's only 19.
I know.
And
Yeah.
then like you see these young kids, and you're like, oh, that was him. But like,
Yeah,
like
the timetable of this movie is has always been odd, right?
Right.
That like how much time has passed in between almost any scene, really.
right. Yeah, so I always found that like kind of weirdly interesting because he doesn't know what he wants. He's just a kid. Like he's only like 18.
And I
maybe.
do appreciate the parallel of real life of like these kids that are going into the military are literal kids. Like, they're fresh out of high school, and they're literally enlisting their lives to save the country. And you shouldn't be having to make decisions like that at such a young age.
Stop talking about student loans.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But
Dude.
Oh, you're talking about
I got Navient on speed dial.
So-
Trust me.
at the prom, Dizzy sneaks in a dance with Johnny, but Johnny really only has eyes for his teacher, Michael Ironside. 'Cause he's like, excuse me, I gotta go talk to my teacher. So,
Please tell me what to do, sir.
yeah, please tell me.
Oh, and he
what to do
delivers
with
that
my life.
that great line. The only freedom that you have is your free. Something like the
Yeah.
only freedom you have is your freedom of choice,
Right.
which is, I think, a great line.
Yeah.
And then,
He says it with such warmth too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's what I'm saying about he's so likable, because he's genuine.
Yeah. It's like I always like when I listen to him read his lines. It's like I totally believe that this guy has fought the most horrific battles and actually has perspective that, you know what I mean, like that, like other people in that world don't have.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's like that's what I was saying in the beginning. Like I think he understands in a larger way that this is like fucked up. But
Yeah.
it's like he's in it.
You
like,
have
the
to.
mobile infantry to help people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Fucked
And
up
then
dynamic.
at the prom, Johnny then finds Carmen dancing with Xander, and she swears that he shouldn't be jealous. But we all seen what Xander did to Kelly Kapowski on Saved by the Bell, so we don't trust this guy at all.
But he
Why
was
would you?
also Austin Reed on Days of Our Lives
Yeah.
for a little while.
That is
He was
true.
also on Melrose Place, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was always making the room a little more handsome.
This cast was beautiful, was
know.
it not?
Yeah.
Like, just gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, it's
a beautiful
It's a beautiful cast.
First off, in what world do you not choose Dizzy over Denise Richards, right?
So-
like, I would have been like pro Dizzy from the start.
So
I don't know.
I was speaking with someone earlier at the bar as I
Don't
was.
listen to him, Denise Richards. You're doing fine.
Oh yeah.
Leave her alone.
And
Sorry.
we were watching this at the bar, and I was like, "This cast is beautiful." I was like, "Just Denise Richards alone." And they were like, "No, Desi's where it's at." I'm like, "No, Denise Richards." And then by the end of the movie, I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's Desi."
Yeah.
That's weird because I was like Casper Van Dien.
Jake Busey for me.
Jake Busey.
Ace, baby.
Ace is awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet Ace.
I know.
It was a fun performance.
So Johnny and Carmen, they join the military as well as Carl, each setting off in a different branches of the military. And so when when Johnny Rico gets home, Reno,
Johnny Reno 911.
his father is angered, and he's like, I'm cutting you off. Obviously, they come for money, and we kind of see that earlier too. But he's like, I'm cutting you off. You're not getting anything. Just completely cuts him off. And even Johnny leaves angry with his mother because he's like, the mother says, "Oh, you're just joining because of Carmen," and he's like, "You take that back about Carmen, you know."
You just like a pretty girl in uniform.
Yes.
There's a little filmmaking thing that I really like in that scene. I love how it's like he has a blowout with his dad,
Right.
and then he goes outside and it's like the door closes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, you see like the.
But it's one of those
reflection on the door.
like a patio door, so
Yeah.
it's not like a slam. It's more of like
But it's cool because it's like on the reflection of the door, you see him talking to his mom
Yeah, it's
now,
great.
and it's
Yeah.
cool. It's almost like a transition of sorts.
Right, like that part of his life, he's closing.
one
the
door closes,
on.
yeah, for sure.
And
But just even visually speaking, it's a great transition from like one moment into another.
right, great staging. And
Paul
blocking,
Verhoeven is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
He's a great filmmaker. That guy.
The problems I have with this movie have nothing to do with the cinematography or any of that. It has everything to do with some of the acting in it. Those are the only problems I have.
Yeah.
Well.
I'm sorry.
So Johnny, he says goodbye to Carmen, and she heads off on a ship towards Fleet Academy, and he heads off to the military. Now we get more like propaganda ads, like soldiers giving guns to the kids.
Wait.
And they're playing with it.
I have to go back because did you get to the part where the three of them are outside and like we need to make a
make their
pact?
promise, yeah.
They make
Yeah.
a pact.
Right.
And the line of "This might be the last time we ever see each other again" is just so, no, we're going to see you guys all together in about 25 minutes. So fucking relax.
Just wait till the third act.
Just wait till the third act. You're going to get back together.
But
Storytelling
Just
demands that
my
we-
thing is
maybe
just
the
leave that line out of the
innocence
movie.
is gone though.
Yeah.
At that point, when they do meet up with each other, it's not like a very warm.
No, shit's changed.
Embrace or
Yeah.
anything. They're like each of them at the end when they finally all three do meet up, they're so kind of cold with each
and
other.
they're completely different people by then.
Right. Their innocence is like just
Gone.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's like
World
really
do that.
sad about that world is that like all those characters, they show like promise, and they show like they have the ability to do more with themselves.
Right.
Like you have like that guy's like he's like I want to be a writer.
Right.
Kitten was his name?
Kitten. Yes. Well, I call him Joker because he's basically Joker from Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah. But like, and that one girl, she wants to have like babies,
Yep.
and like, Diz shows all like the leadership and like that strength. Like they all have
That one kid
such-
just wants to get off the farm.
yeah. They all have this great
Breckenridge,
potential, and
Breckenridge.
it's completely destroyed by this world that has them literally believing that like your only function is to serve this weird. Like
To serve as a weapon
fascist
for our
world
country.
until you die or they find somebody
Someone better to replace you
It's
with.
so funny because like Johnny says that to Carl at the end in like a joking kind of way, like
Right.
ha ha ha, call back. But
Yeah.
it's just kind of like that's a sad line.
That's a sad way to live your life.
Yeah, it's just like my purpose is to essentially die for your cause.
Yeah.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But go on.
But yeah, no, we get this first ad, and it's like the soldiers are like, "Hey, check out these guns," and all the kids are like, "Yeah," and they're like playing with the
Kids pulling
guns,
the gun, multiple
and
kids
they're all
pulling-
like pulling on the gun. Like,
And I could
soldiers
see-
are
Which is
laughing.
hilarious because we're going to see a fire, go wrong
Right.
very soon, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, which is crazy.
like a
because
live fire exercise would
Right.
be disastrous.
They have a live ammo, training session, which goes completely terrible for one of the cadets, and like
Johnny Rico.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Johnny Rico specifically, and the farmer and kid really.
Yeah.
But like, we see this happen, but right before that, we see this ad, and these kids are like going gaga over like a military
And
weapon.
the safety's off. Like those kids,
It's
it's
like-
loaded.
What
The
are some of
safety
the
is
other ads
off.
that are part of
Oh
this?
yeah, so then we have like how the justice system works.
Oh wait, one second.
Oh,
Before-
yes. This is
Yeah.
huge. Where
Yeah.
he basically is found guilty without trial.
So they literally arrested him, like they caught him that day, tried him, and put him to death all in one day, and
But
that's
it was
going
like
to get
live
televised.
streamed. Yes.
On everything, like it was like on all channels and web. So it's not like you can even escape it. Like there's like this is a public execution, and you all have to watch.
Was
Like,
it-
There's no.
That guy has no hope.
I know.
Like, he
like-
just kind of like lowers his head. He's like, I knew this was gonna happen.
Was it one of those things where like you could watch it, but like if you were subscribed to Disney Plus, you could watch it for free
Without ads, yeah.
without ads?
yeah.
Fascist
So
Plus.
execution, fascism plus.
Would you like to know more? Click. So
With the ads, I did want to, because I think we passed it. I like that one part of the propaganda reel where they show like that lady. She's like, it's like I'm doing my part, and then that little kid kind of like leans in. He's like, I'm doing my part too,
And they all
Like,
laugh.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like a child wearing like a uniform.
And that's like a meme now, where on like Instagram and Twitter,
I'm doing my
people
part.
are like sharing. It's like I'm doing my part, I'm doing my part, I'm doing my part, and then it cuts to Tim Robinson.
Yeah.
I ain't doing shit. Which is amazing. And so then we get like this psychic ad. Like they're like, yes, you can.
Are you psychic? Maybe you are.
Yeah, like try this out, and then finally we see a bug eating a censored cow. So they literally censor out this animal getting devoured by one of the arachnids, right? But like right after that, they're like, oh, this colony was attacked by arachnids, and they show all these body parts just like spread out everywhere and like decapitated, cut in half.
Do you remember that? Do you remember the colony?
Oh,
It was Mormon extremists.
Yeah.
This was something that whizzed over my 12-year-old brain, right? But yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
and it was like Fort Joe Smith Colony or something like
Yeah,
that.
right.
So it was like, oh, these guys, these nutsos, they went out, and they get completely brutalized. But it was almost to show that if you were not part of the Federation and you weren't in line with, this vision of reality, you were going to be punished for it.
right. No, but it is weird and to see how they play that out, like right next to each other. It's not like there's any like space in between. So I thought that was kind of interesting
yeah.
how they like, oh yeah, this is what a bug can do. look what happened to people who oppose us, though.
Yeah,
too.
but don't see what happens to a cow. We can't.
Right? Yeah. Oh,
Can't
we'll
do
Well,
censor that.
in all honesty, though, I think I'd rather watch the people get ripped apart.
Got a cow?
I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, what time is that public execution going to be on?
It's 6 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Hey, man, you know me.
Yeah.
I love cows. They're delicious.
And at boot camp, so we cut back into the film now, and we're at boot camp, and we see some military training, and this is where we meet Zim, who is the drill sergeant, played by the great Clancy Brown.
Mr. Krabs.
Yes, Eugene Crabbe himself, one of the Highlanders. And
Kurt Caldwell. For all you Dexter fans.
yes, and so we immediately, he's like, oh, does anyone think they could take me? And so we see the farmer kid. He goes, I think I can.
I think I can. And he
Right.
says it's so meek and so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, come on up. And then he immediately throws him to the ground and breaks his arm. Like,
Steven Seagal style. Just snaps that shit.
he just goes, crack.
Yeah.
He's not like, oh, do you give? He literally
He just snapped. Yeah.
just
No
break it.
mercy.
He
Yeah.
knows they have the technology to repair it.
Yeah, they have a lot of Bacta tank technology in
Yes,
this.
they
in
do.
this
I love the
dystopian
little
future.
strappy thing he had on his arm. That's
We'll
pretty
see a
cool.
much larger Bacta tank later on in the future.
Yeah, it's literally ripped out of Empire.
Yeah.
I like, we kept laughing last night because every couple of minutes in this movie, someone yells, "Medic!"
Yeah. So then we see where Dizzy arrives, and so Zim is like, "Oh, you transferred here?" She's like, "I heard it's the best." He's like, "You're damn right, it's the best."
It is the best.
Yeah.
Do you
and,
want to fight me?
And then she's like, "I'll challenge
Oh,
you, sir."
I just met you, sir.
Yeah. And Dizzy actually
It's like
holds her
Bruce
own.
Lee. Just
Yeah.
you introduce yourself by sparring.
Yeah.
Sir, what's your problem?
Oh, speaking of Dizzy, she looks just like either Cammy from Street Fighter
Yes.
or like Sonya Blade from Mortal Kombat. Like
Right.
she's really channeling that like 90s like female fighting game character energy here.
And this is like,
And to that point, like 5 hairstyles.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that's what they were going for in that.
but Dizzy kind of holds her own against Zim. Like she doesn't go down as easily. And but eventually,
But
he
in
does
typical
get the better of her.
male-female fashion, the male wins.
Right.
Yeah.
And he literally drives his like knee into her neck, and later on we see like she
has bruising.
all
Yeah.
bruised from it.
Yeah.
And
He did not call a medic.
yeah, he did not call a medic at all. And so Johnny meets Ace. They're in line at the like rec hall, the dining hall. I mean, and it's buds at first sight because he's like, "Hey, get back in line." He's like, "I like you're pretty brave
swagger.
for a rich kid."
Something amazing happens in this line. It's one of my favorite like tropes in science fiction, and that is what are they doing to make the food look space age, right? This is popularized by the blue milk in Star Wars, right?
Right.
And here we have pink mashed potatoes. So it's like now you know these guys are in the future because these mashed potatoes are pink.
And we see where the
A little Soylent Green.
yeah. And we see the farmer. His arm.
No, you're right. We have all this technology of lasers and flying through space, and we're still feeding the soldiers garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
This is going to come
super
back. My
processed.
favorite part in the movie also comes back to this, but like I can't wait till we get to that point.
Maybe
because,
they're just on the all yogurt diet.
yeah.
Back of that.
So Dizzy goes up to Johnny and she's like, "Hey, what's up?" And he gives her like a really cold shoulder. He's like, "You just joined it because I'm here, right?" And she's like, "Whatever." And
I'm here for Ace.
I know, yeah. Who isn't here for Jake Busey? So then we have another training where Zim throws a knife into Ace's hand.
Fantastic.
Just to show like how brutal, like he did. It's like
We don't understand the importance of a knife.
right, yeah, because Ace is like, "What's the point of a knife?"
We have these
against-"
guns. You just press a button.
Right, and then he's like, "Your knife." He grabs a knife and he's like, "All right, clear out of the way." And he whips a knife into Ace's hand, and he's like, "The enemy can press a button if you
Disable its hand, or
Even
yeah.
though these bugs are not known for using
We're having
machine
hands.
guns or-
We're having hands.
Well, at this point in time, they're not at war with the bugs, right?
Right.
So like they're training to potentially face some unknown
Okay.
That's true.
enemy.
And
Okay.
a knife does come into play later on. That's super helpful to
Yeah.
Harmon.
Right.
Uh,
Although she's not in this scene, so.
but yeah, she's not
she misses Sim's important training.
but
Just planting the seed.
just planting that seed, I guess.
It's just for the audience.
So in
How-
the co-ed shower scene,
Throughout the entire movie, including the shower scene, which you're about to get to, how much time, like percentage-wise, do you think that Jake Busey had his eyes open? Because if you watch
he
it
doesn't
throughout the
blink
entire movie,
throughout the
it's not even blinking. You can't see his eyes because he's constantly squinting.
He's going for the Anthony Hopkins performance in Silence of the Lambs.
yeah.
Seriously, if
Yeah.
you watch that movie, he never once blinks.
Really?
True story.
Wow,
I
thought
never
so.
noticed that.
I didn't like look for that.
I will 100%
definitely felt
rewatch
like
that movie this week specifically for that.
Did you ever hear the story about Michael Caine and giving that acting advice?
My cocaine?
Michael Caine.
My cocaine?
Yeah, Michael Caine. No, I guess like someone somewhere along the line asked him like, "What's a tip to being a good actor?" And he's like, "Stare directly at the camera and don't blink." And there's this like so many of like British actors who would have seen that video act that exact way like all the time, just locked into the camera, not blinking.
Now it's really common for actors just to go, they had rubies the size of tangerines.
Tangerines.
All right.
Tangerines. And if you work out on any movie set, the first thing the director is going to say is, do not look into the camera. Thank you, Michael Caine.
Mark, okay. So in the co-ed shower scene, each of the soldiers go around saying why they joined exactly, and one got into Harvard but couldn't afford it. And I do love that look Johnny Rico gives, because he's just, it's a little bit of like guilt. Like he's like, oh, you know, like this guy who wants to go to Harvard, I had the opportunity just to go. Like I didn't even have to join the military. So you see that like brief moment where he's just like, kind of like turns his back a little bit towards that soldier who just said that.
And he gets a little irritated too. Makes
Yeah.
him a little irritable.
And then we see where, you know, she wants to get into politics, and the only way to get into politics is if you become a citizen.
One wants to have kids, one wants to be a
Yes.
writer, somebody just wants to get off the farm. But before we go any further,
Yes.
this whole scene could have happened in a study hall, fully clothed.
Yeah. Well, Paul Verhoeven. I guess originally James Cameron wanted to do a co-ed shower scene to show in Aliens.
Yes.
And then Paul Verhoeven thought it would fit the story that they're just such like there's no like male female, it's just military, and that's why it's like a co-ed shower scene.
This is one of the things that people will point to who defend like whether it's the book or the movie about like the fascist like undertones, right?
Right.
Is that it is pretty progressive in that sense, right? That in the book, all the fleet pilots are women. Like there is no Xander equivalent, right? And it's like, well, it can't be that fascist if we're being progressive over here, and you know, and like that's kind of the defenders. The book was written in 1960, so
Yeah.
like obviously some of the discourse about it like doesn't really hold up now, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
There's this suspicion in that story that like the government
Sorry.
essentially created like an enemy for people to focus on. So there's no like, if you've noticed, there's no like homophobia, there's no like racism, there's no misogyny in it. It's just like there's like all that energy is just put on to Bug.
One. Yeah, like
the mon-
race
Right.
like an
of
enemy.
bugs,
Like
yeah.
Buenos Aires is mentioned as a city, but not Argentina as a country. And it seems like the Federation is a worldwide like organization.
I was going to say like
Like Starfleet Academy.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
Starfleet.
at a certain point in Futurama, America was no longer a thing. Mexico, Canada,
Yep.
none of that was a thing. It was just Earth.
Yeah.
So I feel like those Futurama reference.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel like this is the opposite of Starfleet, like Star Trek, in a way where that is like the more diplomatic way of going about the universe and learning different things about each of the planets and the species that lives there, right? This is like the opposite. It's like the extreme military version of that. And so I always like that kind of too. I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
And also with them not say like doing it in like a study hall, like you said.
It was one of the producers said, "We need nudity. How do we get it in? Let's take this study hall scene and just put it in a shower, and then everybody can be naked."
Also, though, it's like the time where they're all open and vulnerable.
Okay.
They're actually like being human beings. Like,
No,
they're
I
actually
got you.
Not they're not
I
wearing
never
their
thought about it
military
like that,
outfits.
Yeah, I'm never more vulnerable than when I'm naked.
I know. I've been there.
But yeah, then Dizzy comes in and they're like, hey, why did Rico join? And because like Johnny's not giving anything up, like why he joined. He's like, oh, because of a girl. And they're all like, oh, Johnny Rico.
Excellent, perfect. That's exactly what it
I
sounded
love
like.
that line.
You
in the
transported me back to the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
movie. Oh, John.
Oh, Johnny Rico. Who's that guy? So in
Would you
Johnny's...
do that line as Adam Sandler?
Oh, Johnny Rico. All right.
So you did that in that last episode, and I just listened to it about 47,000 times.
I'm so sorry. So in Johnny's video to Carmen, he is showing her like, oh, this is bunk life. Here's like some of the people back here. We sleep in these like cots and stuff, and and meanwhile,
Around
Carmen,
the clock medic.
right.
People come and beat us up.
Snapping arms.
Meanwhile, Carmen is at the academy training to be a pilot, and she is like showing off her skills to on this like jump ship because she's flying it to like one of the bigger.
This part was hilarious to me because you were like, did the producer say, should we get a shower scene in here? To me, this was like, hey, kids like that Death Star in the Star Wars movies. We need to get a Death Star trench run included in this movie.
Dude,
somewhere.
I
Dives
literally
down.
said that last night. I'm like, it's the ending to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, it's like, why is she flying like through the rigging of the ship?
Right, it's like why
You can
are
just go
doing
around.
That's what I'm saying. It's outer space. There's a lot of space.
There's so much of it.
You do not need to like put yourself in these narrow corridors.
this? And what if she just like screwed up and just like
That's what I'm saying,
killed
like
all the people
How
on
many
her
lives
ship?
Credits.
would have been lost?
Right.
Credits.
you imagine Xander that night where it was like, he's like, hey, where's the person? Oh, she died tragically.
She was showing off.
It kind of reminded me of that episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where Wesley's like showing off at the Starfleet Academy and there's like the accident.
Right. Yeah,
It's a shuttle accident, yeah.
But so she's showing off her skills. But when she gets to the crate, she runs into Xander, who is co-piloting with her, and she couldn't be thirstier. Like she's like, oh. You're
Did you
here?
see the way he like turned towards the camera in that chair? Just slowly spins.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Right. And so obviously this is a movie with
Ladies.
lines, but if this was the real world, he rehearsed. We can all agree that
Yeah,
he had that entire dialogue planned.
knew
He
what
was
he
in
was
that
gonna
room
say.
by
Right.
himself for
Yes,
a while.
yes,
It's just like,
exactly.
She comes in, be real cool.
He actually told her to go on the shuttle run so he could practice spinning the chair coolly,
It'd be funny if like she was
not looking or something like that. It's like, oh, let me do it again.
Oh, let me.
somebody like looks into like in like one of the windows. He's just in there like,
He's going
I'm
over.
gonna be like this.
And I love what's the actor's name? Patrick Muldoon.
Yeah.
He kind of talks like Luke Perry, like the real cool guy. He's like, "Hey, Carmen, what's up?" I don't know why. I just love his raspy, weird voice. But meanwhile, Johnny is running a simulation, and him and Dizzy, run an old play, and they actually
Lipstick 3-hole.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they win capture of the
Wow. No, say it again.
It was a flip 6-3 hole.
Jesus.
flag. And so Zim, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make Johnny a squad leader. And so at the
Did you
bus,
see those moves?
yeah, he literally
He's
he does
awesome.
like a little somersault and he shoots like 3 of them in a row.
Johnny Rico's
He
like
steals
he's like
the
a-
gun and it shoots the other. That always
he's
bothered
like-
me in like G.I. Joe because the Cobra had blue lasers and the G.I. Joes had red lasers. But if the
Yeah.
G.I. Joe ever stole a Cobra gun, it would change colors. Like, was there like a switch on there? It was like had to indicate like
Set to blue.
Johnny's moves are awesome.
What
Yeah,
was
He's like
uh,
a soldier who's like an Olympian.
what's Keanu Reeves' character in Point Break?
Johnny Utah.
Johnny, is this like an homage to Johnny Utah essentially, or a little bit? I don't know.
Yeah, Brody. So while Johnny is doing this whole thing, he actually gets promoted by Zim to a squad leader. Later that night, they're at the bunks, and Dizzy sends, Carmen sends a message, and she actually breaks up with
Which
Johnny
is all, in front of
breaking up
every-
all of his
text,
friends
yeah.
in front of everyone.
via video message.
Well, it's not like she told them to not be there. They were just very nosy.
I like to hear Ace. He's like, you don't deserve that.
Yeah. You don't deserve that.
But this is kind of contradicting to what we said, though, because like once they realize she's breaking up with them, they all kind of like scuttle away. But if we
Right.
learn from the public execution, that's the kind of juicy stuff that the people like to see in this world.
If they had cell phones, they probably would have been like trying to get themselves in the shot.
I like you doing a visual bit on the podcast.
I know.
I love it.
But the next day, they run another training, and then Breckenridge, who is like the farmer, he's having a problem with his helmet. So Johnny Rico's like, okay, remove your helmet. And when he does, one of the girl who's into politics, she gets frightened by one of the things that pops out. So she falls and is firing her gun. And we see this crazy like headshot just where boom.
An
Only
explosion.
just in a way that only Paul Verhoeven could have pulled.
Yeah,
off.
seriously, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a sweet head explosion.
Yeah. And so Breckenridge.
David Cronenberg would be proud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I
And
think David Cronenberg would love to be able to film violence the way
The way
Paul
that they-
Verhoeven
Yeah, if you didn't know Paul Verhoeven was the director of this movie,
Indeed.
and you saw that, you'd be like, oh,
That guy.
he's the director. Oh yeah, it's the RoboCop guy.
He has like a mastery of violence in movies because like if you watch like RoboCop for example, there's like violence in the movie like when they're like shooting Peter Well's character.
yeah.
Like he's getting shot and it's horrific and like you're just like watching the movie like oh my god. But then at the beginning of the movie when Ed 209 comes in and he starts shooting that guy in the boardroom, you're kind of laughing.
Yeah,
Right.
It's like he can like make you kind of upset by violence and make you laugh and get you excited by it.
So
He's a
that's
master.
one of the things
Yeah.
I noticed about this movie, and I'll point it out as we go through. Is there are a couple times in this movie where characters die, right? And like something, and like the characters that live will have like a wry smile at it and stuff like that. There's one that I want to point out a little bit later, but yeah, it's like they'll witness the death of somebody and be like, okay, and just like almost be happy about it. Like,
Yeah, Ace has that moment.
yes, Ace has one for sure.
Yeah.
Johnny has one when he gets promoted in the Roughnecks. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as a punishment, Johnny Rico gets demoted, and he receives a public lashing.
10
which is
lashes.
10 lashes. Meanwhile, back in
They
space,
don't have a better punishment, or was that like a throwback to Jesus being? Why that? Why did they choose?
So-
I don't know
Why
if
did they
it's 'cause
choose
the
that
father
as a
brought it
punishment?
Well, I think they referenced it there, but it was
Yeah.
in the book. There's, I guess, a lot of public execution and a lot of public lashing and stuff.
Oh,
that the author Heinlein just was, I guess, interested in that kind of stuff, and that's like one of like the criticisms that the book has is that like it kind of glorifies like public violence.
I think it was just that his dad called up the army and he was like, yo, if he fucks up,
I want you to lash him.
because I just
Lash
want
him.
him to know, like, I'm always right.
There's one interesting thing I bring up about this part a little bit before the
I'm going to use that
public
with my
lashing.
kids.
Yeah.
Is that you're introduced to like the head of the training center.
Right, Dean Norris.
Yes, yeah. And so I watched this movie I rented it via like Apple TV.
Yeah.
And the closed captions had him attributed as Ratchik. And I thought it was very interesting because like Clancy Brown, Ratchik, and this guy all kind of played the same character in different ways. Like I think Ratchik was a little bit different down the road, right? But they were all this like big tough guy who like, I'm gonna bust you down to private. You know, like, to the point where the closed captioner didn't even recognize this person wasn't Michael Ironside.
I hope the guy who did the closed captions listening to this episode is just tugging at his collar.
Like,
Yeah,
oh,
just-
no, they noticed.
Oh shit!
If he's not worried by AI, he sure is now. This podcast is real deep investigation.
Mary, they're calling me out.
Oh no, they noticed. I didn't.
Can you imagine if that was like his biggest shame? And he's like, I'm going to listen to every podcast ever on Starship Troopers to see if someone noticed.
Oh, I worked on that.
Mary, get in here.
Surely praise my work.
Mary, get in here. They're talking about me on the podcast. You got to hear it.
They're talking about subtitles. Oh my god.
Well,
no.
What, I can't make a mistake?
And the funny thing about it is he had to put a lot of work in because at no point did they ever say the name Kitten. right?
Right.
But they knew that person's name was Kitten when he talked, right? So it was like, where'd he get that knowledge from?
Right.
The Internet Movie Database. That's where I got it too.
Yeah, that's where I got it too. But yeah, meanwhile, back in space, Carmen and Xander are hitting it off very, very well. And they're about to smooch until a meteor rolls by and almost destroying the ship. But luckily, Carmen is able to, like, maneuver and only loses the top half of the ship.
Yeah, but I also want to say, had she not been trying to make out with him and had she been paying attention, would that have happened or no?
So there is a big
and
conspiracy.
She also put him on the course,
yes,
right?
Yes. There is a big fan theory about this movie where if you think about the order of events here, Xander has the course plotted. She, without consent, changes it. Right. And he, because he's interested in her, allows it. Right? Now, you got to think this is outer space, right? So even a small incremental change, especially if you're traveling at light speed, is going to be pretty sizable in the vastness of space. So they only come encountering with this gravitational field because of her change. And it's never implied. It's never implied that the asteroid that goes whizzing by them is the one that destroys Buenos Aires. But my favorite fan theory about this movie is that Denise Richards is responsible at starting the war between the arachnids and the humans.
She's like, oops.
Yeah, she never, like, owns up to that at all. Like, oh, it's my fault. I changed the course.
And then
they get praise for it.
And then the captain comes in and says, we're luck and
Sue Ellen Mischke.
We were very lucky, and she says, "Oh, it has nothing to do with luck. It was because of our." I'm like, no. Had she not screwed shit up, we'd be fine. Is this when he makes the comment of like, so and so, my job is this, and she says, "Well, I guess your career is in my hands," or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Is that was this part?
That was this part.
Yeah. Terrible idea.
Yep. And
It's just so interesting to me because, like I said, you never really they never tell you the origins of this conflict with the arachnids, right? That is completely devoid of the audience knowledge, right? Is it because sometimes when you have like a military movie, they're fighting over resources. But if you look at the planets that the arachnids inhabit, they're mostly desolate.
Yes.
Like there's no indication that the humans need anything from this planet at all, right? So like, what is this conflict? And they only go into the war because of this meteor.
And not to mention all the way at the end of the movie, foreshadowing when he puts his hand on it and he says they're afraid.
Yeah,
that's all they are.
Right.
They're afraid.
Don't they kind of subtly imply that it's because the humans colonized on their planet?
Right. Yeah. It seems like they're taking more of a defense. Like that's pretty much the only information you have is that they're maybe more defensive.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You'll see that again soon.
Bugs don't have like an agenda to like take over Earth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The propaganda suggests that they send those meteors to colonize. That's how they colonize planets, right? But it seems like humans were trying to colonize within the Klendathu system, right? So, yeah. That's why the propaganda is so interesting, because obviously propaganda can lie, right? So you are told in one of the propagandas, oh, they're using the meteors to colonize, right? But clearly a meteor hits, doesn't, and there's no bugs or come out of it and stuff. So is that trying to raise the question of, well, I don't know, you know what I mean? I like that's one of the things where I think maybe the movie doesn't do a great job of facilitating that.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's crazy because sometimes did you see the theory that maybe the military is responsible for that hitting Earth as well? Like did you read that?
I only really saw the Denise Richards one because I thought that was funny.
Yeah. But saying like, oh, they kind of like made that happen so they could go to war.
Yeah, it's distinctly possible. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so Johnny is about to call it quits because not only did one of his squad members get murdered, another one quits because she feels, or I don't know if she quit or got kicked out.
She quits. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
she took a
washout lane. That's it. Yeah.
And so Johnny Rico, he accepts his punishment, and he's about to call it quits. But he gets a message from his parents who encourage him to return home. But soon he sees that his home...
It's getting dark out here.
Yeah.
His city... The turnaround, the 1 minute turnaround of someone, I want to go home, to instantly, it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
You know what's hilarious? They have like a whole news story ready to go. It's like they die, and then it's like live, and they have the death count. It's like, how did they get these numbers so accurately so quickly? Like the turnaround time is immediate. It's like
Right. That's what I mean.
Like the
Like,
bodies. It's like,
what-
well, who survived to be able to get?
So that's why I like one of the theories is because
The
everything
military
so-
was like ready. That's actually interesting. Yeah, I didn't notice that until this time, where it was like it goes dark on the family, and
Right.
they run to that board, and it's like boom, immediate. There's like a huge story ready to go. This is something they could have went with, right? Where if you're looking early, that it looks like there's still wealthy people who look down on citizenship in the military, right? Is fabricating a war some kind of power play in which the military can then seize more power, like within the earth, to kind of destabilize like the bourgeoisie, to say the least, right? Like
we see their home is destroyed, and Johnny, he makes a request to come back, and Zim is
I think
like,
he signed his 1902A.
right? You already signed the form.
Well, yeah, this is
You can't do it.
Yep.
Yeah, you're out. You already quit.
Is
Such
this
a
your
binding-
signature?
Yeah, and Zim
Look
is like,
it to me.
"Hey, Rico, is this your signature?" "Sir, yes, sir." And then he's like, "Doesn't look like it to me," and he just rips it up.
Rips up a government document. Go ahead.
Yes.
These are times of war, Vince.
Boom. Johnny is back in. So now we get more propaganda ads. So the military plans to attack the home planet of the bugs.
Big K.
With the big K, yeah. And then we see, the devastation of like Johnny's home, the city and stuff.
Of
And-
Buenos Aires.
Yeah. And we get that close up on the one guy who looks like he has like ash all over him. He's like, an
Only good bug
is
is
a dead bug. Yeah.
He said the line, yeah.
And then we get to see Carl, who we haven't seen in a while, and he is giving advice about killing a bug. Hey, make sure they're dead because they could still attack you. So make sure
Don't just
to
shoot
aim
off a
for
limb,
the
make
nerve
sure-
system. Yeah. Like you could shoot off limbs, but they will still keep going, which is important because that comes back.
Foreshadowing.
Yes, and then we get this other ad where it's all these kids and they're stomping on the bugs on Earth.
Oh yeah.
But to go back to the him saying you can't shoot a limb off and it still has to work. I go back to remember when he's dissecting it after the school year is over. He's
Yeah.
dissecting the bug. He knows where everything is. So he's like a perfectly tuned killing machine that he knows how to kill these things.
Yeah.
Which I thought I enjoyed that. I don't know why.
Right? Yeah, he's just like
He knows what to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Well, he knows how to make
kill.
people hurt. He knew how to
right.
make Johnny hurt. He knew how to make his mom hurt. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
like he's apt at. He's very good at his job.
You know what else? Who else he hurt? Cyrano, because he doesn't play with him anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
oh, poor his ferret.
Yeah.
Probably
Go
died.
bug mom.
By the way, I almost fucked up on this podcast because I like to call out good animal performances, as you know.
Yeah, and
That ferret's
Cyrano,
awesome.
Cyrano de Bergerac did a great job.
You see him standing all upright, looking at him,
Yeah,
letting him read his mind.
yeah, and they said that was I think the cinematographer's ferret or something.
No,
One
that
of-
was the cinematographer.
Oh, that was yeah. He's so good.
Did you-
He's did a
How
great
does-
job
really
on
good.
How
this.
does he do that with those little hands?
I don't
And,
know, man. I'm telling you, like Freakquels, we love to call out good animal
And
performers
that
and
ferret,
craftsmen.
that was a good, some good acting on that
We'll
ferret.
talk more about the ferret.
Let's do it.
We don't have the time. Let's get back to the
All
movie.
right,
I know.
all right.
I know we
promise-
want to.
You know, guys,
You
if-
use up your time on the D&D.
So
we're gonna start a Patreon for
Just
everybody out there. You'll get
Cyrano
extra
the
bonus
ferret.
content of us.
Don't make me
about-
Google what's the lifespan of a ferret, right? Because I cannot live with the hope that Cyrano might still be alive.
Just knowing you for an hour and 30 minutes, I would pay money to look at your Google search history.
So we see these kids and they're this is an ad where they're stomping on the bugs and they're doing their part and stuff, and we see this teacher who's just like
the
so
cackling.
happy. Yeah,
The cackling, yes.
it's
She got Rue McClanahan for that part too.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
get Betty White in there.
Yeah.
Get all the Golden Girls. You know.
Maud.
So now we get a live broadcast that goes into what we kind of saw before, but it's catching like Rico and his squad as they head off, they're going to get some tattoos, but first they run into Carmen, and things get a little awkward when Xander full-on initiates a fight with Johnny in the rec hall of the ship. And
We're still pissed about him rubbing in that football game, whatever that game is.
He lost
jump
that.
ball, I think.
Rank doesn't matter here, everybody. Like, how is Xander the rank to make that call?
Yeah, he's like,
and rank clearly matters because he can make the call to destabilize rank.
I like
Rank
that.
doesn't matter, guys.
It's funny, like, as soon as he says rank doesn't matter, Johnny's just right in there.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay,
and
good enough for me.
he turns to Carmen and says, well, what's he going to do? Well, what do you think he's going to do? Like, if you wanted to have these social mores, don't say that rank doesn't matter.
He just gets bopped right in the face right away.
Yeah.
Initially, people...
But he
pick
has
up
a
the
really
fight.
cool knee that like comes up and hits
Yeah.
Casper
That is
right
awesome.
in the face. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he like...
I like
flips
that,
him
like
onto
that
the
weird,
table.
like elbow drop thing he's
Oh
doing
yeah,
too.
for sure.
Yeah. And then he's like, boo, boo. But then we see where Rico gets a death from above tattoo with his squad, with Ace and Dizzy and...
I will get that tattooed on my body if you guys pay for it.
All right.
Okay. Deal. All the
That was
all
the
the money we
easiest.
make, all the money we make for the T-shirts will just go towards that fund.
Yeah.
And the show. All the money you've been making
Guys,
from the
I
show.
just got the notice. The Zegama Beach T-shirts are flying off the shelves.
Spring break.
Yes, you're getting that tattoo.
We got some cool T-shirts on this show. Coming at you.
Coming at you. So the military, they're preparing to.
Wait, what if we did that?
What's that?
What?
Like we're gonna get Freakquels shirts. We have the imagery and stuff like that.
Right.
What if we made like super deep cut T-shirts of like Zegama Beach? I always wanted a T-shirt of the pharmacy from No Country for Old Men, where he goes in and steals all this stuff. What if we made just like the most random T-shirts?
Well,
Hear me
would you
out.
buy 2002 wrestling team?
That's one of them.
Yeah.
Hear me out. One with Cyrano on it.
yeah.
an idea.
That's my point. Just like so deep that someone has to ask you, what does that mean?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's do it.
Something that'll never happen.
F you, Vince.
Fuck you. Oh, the fuck you Vince T-shirt. I told you I'd wear that every day. I'd
we're
get like
getting that.
20 of them.
But yeah, so the military is preparing to invade the bug planet, setting out their jump ships and stuff. And we see the ship Carmen was piloting gets hit by a large plasma light. And you're like, you just see it like coming right at her, and then it cuts. And you're like, oh, did she just die?
She's definitely gonna be horrifically disfigured when we see her next. It's not. It's not gonna be the smallest prop cut I've ever seen in my entire life. Those flames are way too big, right?
Right. We see them like literally ripping ships in half, and then later, like when we cut back to Carmen, the bridge totally seems fine. She has like one cut
On her eyebrow.
And,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
just put this out there. So, in preparation for this review that we're doing, I bought the 4K for this movie.
Of course you
that
did.
cut doesn't look good.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah,
That's a bummer.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I didn't do that
Like
cut
a-
any favors.
But the practical was so good in this.
Yeah.
Oh,
A lot
everything
of
was
the
great.
practical
All the
effects are
bodies
just-
on the ground were phenomenal.
Well, they
Even, like,
lost all their
even,
money
like,
by the time
computer
they got to
technologies and
her.
stuff like that. Like, just
Yeah.
looks so good.
The little cut, that's where when they ran out of money, it
Right.
was just like, oh, stick some gum on there.
And I think they did some stop motion animation with Phil Tippett from RoboCop. They brought him back to do some of that stuff too. But yeah, so down below, Johnny and the other troops, they come across some
That
bugs.
sounds like a sad folk song. Down below, Johnny.
Down below, Johnny. They come
below,
across
Johnny
the
and the
bugs that
troops.
were responsible for the plasma light, and they blow those things up with like a bazooka. And they're these giant
A nuke. This is remember, this is Ace.
Right.
Bugs. What do you need in a nuke fight? Ace was obsessed with nukes. Nuke this, nuke that, right?
Yeah.
And they fire his nukes. And by the way, they're wearing no protection against nuclear fallout. In
Yeah.
fact, they just shoot the nuke and walk
They-
right towards it.
They
Yeah.
think nuclear is fire.
Yeah.
yeah. And so they blow up these giant lightning bugs.
It's the bugs that are shooting the meteors.
Right.
Well,
And-
I know they had some product placement going on. This was like a really weird Raid commercial.
Right. Yeah. It's just like a Raid atomic bomb that they
Raid.
like insert. Yeah.
Let's get the Ehrlich rocket launchers.
So then we see where now, after they blew up these bugs, where they're getting attacked, and we see the footage from the cinematic side of it, where the cameraman is like still rolling as the one guy who is like kind of leading us through everything. He's getting like chopped up in half, and we see the loss of Kitten and Harvard. I forget his name.
Chichumi,
and then
it's interesting because even as a kid, I was like, "What's going on with this guy?" I thought he was supposed to get because remember he like runs up. He like they're in their like what do you say, colonial fighting, like straight line tactic, right? And he just rushes forward and just is instantly killed. And I was like, this guy got in Harvard? Like that's not really good thinking here, you know? I
doesn't track.
I was 12 years old. I would have told him not to do that. That doesn't seem.
It does look weird when he does that.
Right, of all the characters to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
The one who was supposed to be the brainiac, unless he was like hyped up on their own propaganda. Because that was always the thing that I thought was so cool, was that like it was countdown to victory. That was the messaging before they land on Big K, right? And it was like, oh, this is like a shoe with the old, you know. Like, and then they just immediately get eradicated, but it felt like they were like, you know, like huffing their own just military ego. Yeah.
I love that though, because like they're all like pumped going down there. They're all like, yeah, we're gonna go in there, we're gonna fight, and we're gonna win. And then as soon as the bugs show up, they all turn into kids.
Yeah.
They're all just like, what the fuck do we do?
Shit.
The guy who was like their commander, right? He's like, just remember all your training and you'll come out alive.
You'll survive.
And he's the first one to just die.
And then, you know, we didn't mention it, but Ace is the person that gets promoted to squad leader.
Right.
After Rico is bumped down
and instantly crumbles.
But before even the first person is dead, or you know, before any of their friends, I should say, are dead, he has no plan.
Right.
So,
he has no leadership capabilities.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Which is also foreshadowing, because later on, I think he says to him, I want you to be my second in command. And he's like, no, I'm just a fighter, which I love, because there are certain people in life that you could either be a general or a soldier. And sometimes you can't give soldiers the responsibility of a general. They just want to be soldiers.
Right.
So just let soldiers be soldiers.
I always found this interesting because he's the first character that breaks in terms. If we go back to the shower scene where they're talking about what they want to be.
Yeah.
The person who got into Harvard,
Right.
he acts the dumbest. The person who wants to be the officer can't handle the first rank up the ladder.
First chance he gets.
Right? And we talked about what are Rico's motivations, what are Carmen's motivations, right? You are seeing it on like it's when it's in theory, it's easy to talk. And now they're kind of face to face with it, and it's almost the reverse, or they can't do it, or maybe what they set out to be isn't what they're actually designed to be.
And the one that wanted to become a mother runs away from her responsibility right away.
Derelict, right? Because she has no really investment in you, right? You know, it's like she obviously was in it for different reasons, right? Like,
yeah.
But where are those motherly instincts?
But yeah, so we see, you know, Johnny Rico, he's holding his own, but eventually...
I love that you refer to him not as Johnny or Rico, but you refer to him as Johnny Rico.
It's kind of a great name.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
It's one of the best
was the
fictional
name,
names.
Yeah, was the name from the book too. So like, clearly they had that was like a winner. You know?
I had a friend in high school whose name was John Ross, which is just two short names, but no one referred to him as John or Johnny. It was always John Ross. It was just both names. I don't know why that is.
Some people sometimes, like Chris Conforti, we always call it Chris
Conforti.
Chris Conforti is Chris Conforti, yeah. He doesn't... I thought it was Chris Conforti, one word. It's not like Cher. It's not that.
It's actually,
Some of our friends I call, hey, you.
Hey, you.
Hey, buddy.
I don't know their names. I never took the time to learn.
Yeah.
Hey,
I learned Rory's name on this podcast. I'm glad he went first.
I'm glad he went first.
You're just like sitting across from me like, what's that guy's name?
Who is that?
Oh, shit, this is going to be awkward.
Thank God.
Don't make me address him. Don't make me address him.
So now, after Johnny Rico falls to the bugs, and we think maybe he died, we cut to more ads, and we see, you know, them talking about the failure that just happened. We also have a talk show where people are just trying to outshout each other. Like, they're trying to get their points across, but they're just shouting, and like no one's really making a point, which is kind of like news today.
My favorite line of that part is at the end. He goes, the fact that you think that bugs can think offends me. Cut.
Right.
Which is literally like the epitome of our epitome of what our country is. What you said offends me. End of conversation.
Right. Yeah,
I
that's
love
so
that.
weird.
Yeah. I have a feeling that while I did enjoy this movie, I'm going to love it after the second watch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that possible?
The more you watch it, the more like in depth
Little
you
shit
start
that
to
I'm going to
up
pick up
more
on.
and more.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we cut back, and Carmen and Xander are okay with you and just have some minor scratches. But
Xander's
meanwhile,
got like some dust on his jacket.
he looks like the captain looks fine, the bridge looks fine. Everyone except Carmen is the only one.
Got
She
that
has like a
scratch.
scar. Yeah, it's like a scratch. It's like a cat scratch, really.
Yeah, it's a little kitten. No, the ferret stowed away onto the ship. It just
Cyrano betrayed them.
Yeah, Cyrano a little scared during the invasion.
This is subplot that backed out of the movie.
Again, it didn't even happen during the crash. That scratch came from something completely different.
Cyrano, what I like to imagine, he ran onto the bridge, he jumped on her face, scratched her, and then he took control, and then he died. He's like,
No,
you guys get out of here.
He's the reason why they survived.
Yeah.
Because he didn't think she was capable of it because she wanted...
Yeah, she passes out, so he just takes the wheel. He's some super intelligent ferret. Carl is controlling him from a distance.
He's like,
I see like a shot of Carl down on Earth. Like,
Cut to a ferret in a helmet driving a fucking spaceship. Yeah,
dude,
I
I
want
would
that.
have loved that movie.
yes. I would be on board to see like animal, humanoid animal.
But to be
type
fair,
of-
you guys did watch that movie and you loved it. It was called Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, and 3.
that's true.
I would have loved it if Cyrano landed that ship and then everyone just saluted him. Captain, my captain.
he's just walking like down.
You'll never believe who got the brain bug.
Little ferret.
He has this little helmet.
He has a little death from above tattooed.
His arm is shaved, but he has the little tattoo.
This is a much better
Yeah,
movie.
we did it. We said,
Yeah, I think we just improved it.
Dear Paul Verhoeven.
yeah, Paul, if you want to do a director's cut, it's free of charge.
Give us a ring.
For all you hacks out in Hollywood who are going to remake this movie at some point,
Freakquel
consider having
podcast
their-
at gmail.com.
Yeah,
We're
just
approaching
give
the
us
20-year anniversary pretty soon, too.
Yeah.
So,
Just give us our check and we'll let you have all of our good ideas.
You guys are getting paid?
Yeah.
Moving on. So meanwhile, Johnny is in like a back to
yeah, the Bacta tank, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
and he's recovering from his injuries. And stuff.
That's a Star Wars reference?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Remember that thing that Luke said in Empire?
Yeah.
He was wearing a big diaper. It's kind of humiliating. I will
Here's
say,
your hero.
I will say, Johnny Rico's Bacta tank attire is much more flattering than Luke Skywalker's.
Yes.
Dude's like Jake from Steak Farm,
Like,
rocking khakis.
It's been a long time since I've seen Empire, but correct me if I'm wrong. But when Luke wakes up, he's like, right? It's like I wonder if he like looks at him, he's like, "You put me in this." Like, Princess Leia's right over there. I'm like an idiot.
I feel like it more.
How's this diaper helping?
You soiled yourself numerous times.
Can we keep that between us?
Luke, we've discovered the healing power of liquid, but not the powers that prevent you from soiling yourself.
Damn. So Johnny, Ace, and Dizzy meet their roughneck leader, which is Michael Ironside, Johnny's former high school teacher. And under his command...
Which is great because I don't know how I didn't foresee that, him being that. To see him with the arm was a shock to me. I don't know how the hell I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be Johnny plot hole here,
Right.
but Michael Ironside is a retired teacher in Buenos Aires, right?
Yeah.
The meteor hits, and then he probably re-enlists. Well, how did he survive the Buenos Aires attack? Right? Like, when you meet Michael Ironside at the graduation, he's, like you're saying, he's disfigured, he's out of service, he's not planning to go back. The character, I'm sure when they did the writing, they were probably like, oh, he's going to re-enlist because of the attack. But he would have been at the epicenter of the attack, right?
So, just to clarify it, there's actually a deleted scene.
Is there really?
Yeah, where Cyrano
Okay,
shows
yeah,
up
yeah.
in the ship. He's like, come with me if you want to live. And he saves him. And he's like, how can I repay
Like Trinity
you?
in the Matrix, just
Yeah.
like...
His little paw hand.
Yeah, he's like, how can I ever repay you? He's like, bring our boys home.
Yeah, but just watching it this time, I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty big plot hole.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know what he was doing.
My thing is he's a survivor.
Yeah.
So he's gonna figure out a way.
Yeah, because they did have some people that survived.
Yeah, there's that guy who's like, the only good bug is a dead
bug, but yeah. But we see under his command, they actually start getting some victories under their belts.
Well, it was mentioned that the Roughnecks were like the only successful unit on Big K.
Right.
They say I think nobody killed more bugs than the Roughnecks.
So the Roughnecks are essentially the Marines.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like his
And
private
the first time that Johnny Rico went out, he was essentially with the Army.
Yeah.
The Marines are better than the Army. It's just that simple. I don't know how else to explain it. But
Don't you listen to them, Army.
it's literally a parallel for life of that. Like, the Marines get better equipment, they get better training, they get better everything than the Army does. So if you're going to give this shit to the Marines that are fighting for their lives, why not also give it to the Army? Those guys in the that first wave were so ill prepared. They didn't have the correct weapons. When they went in with his crew, they were so much more efficient. They had air coverage.
Yep.
They went in and blasted. Like, why didn't they do that with the first wave?
If it wasn't for Cyrano, the whole thing would have been a disaster.
I think you're making a really excellent point.
Yeah.
Because this is going to come back to Carl.
No, keep talking. Tell everybody about my excellent point.
Yeah. It's because after the failure of that first mission, the Sky Marshal Deans
resigns.
Yes.
And Sky Marshal, what a great name, Tahut Maru becomes the second. But she says she
Wants
now,
to understand.
Right. But it's so interesting because it's her strategy is we're not going to attack Big K because it's too dangerous. This is bullshit. You find out later that they suspect that there's a brain bug on the next planet, right? So this is devious because what you're saying is true. They have the best equipment, they have the best gear. But what's really going on here is that this group are not a bunch of fuck-ups. The new plan is to capture the brain bug. So we're going to send the not fuck-ups to the planet with the brain. Now, are they going to tell the Roughnecks this? No. But this is the motivation of the changing of the leadership, after this point.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And how do they know this? Carl,
yeah. And so they get all these victories under their belt. They're killing, bugs left and right. And they kill a bunch of arachnids and a giant kind of beetle bug with the orange blood.
Thing's so awesome.
And again,
Yeah.
use a nuclear weapon without any protection whatsoever.
Right.
explosion.
But that fucking scene is so cool.
Yeah.
Is this when he jumps on
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and
Legolas style?
When this
Yeah.
movie came out, you would go to the movies and they would show, like the movie tunes before, they would show like clips and stuff. I thought this was going to be destined for one of those like still images that you would see like during like those like early movie things, right? Where it's when Rico's like when the bug's behind him and he's like
So awesome.
thumbs up,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
It gave me the vibe of Legolas on top of the elephant when
hell yeah.
he jumps on it and he kills him, and then
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah, he
that only counts as...
Flintstones, like,
Yeah, but it's
yeah.
just a badass, like, he's on top of this thing and he kills...
Do you remember when Legolas dropped a nuke onto the elephant?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
it was sick.
That was
Yeah.
sick.
I wish I had an elephant.
You did. His name was Stampy. You loved him.
So we see.
Wait, what? Before I move on, I just want to
Oh,
say,
yeah.
the thing with the
No, thank you for finishing that for me.
oh, you're welcome. The scene where he's like killing the big giant bug,
Yeah.
like that for me being like kind of like younger when I saw that was like the perfect thing ever. It's like you would want there to be like a giant bug action figure, like a Johnny
Right.
Rico. It's such like a cool like little kid fantasy.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
guess it's also important that you meet Watkins here. Who
Yes.
kind of becomes another major character, and you see his proliferation for like just wanting to really decimate the bugs, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Was this the dude that just rocked suspenders?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he had,
What's
like,
your
the
favorite
overalls.
character with your
Loved him.
favorite line?
Yes. Oh, God. We'll get there. Are
I
we
got
there?
that
Can I
line
do
at
that?
3 in the morning.
But we
did
see
you
this
really?
bug
I did.
that
I'm not
is-
sorry.
No, I went. I went back to bed.
We see this bug.
Hey, Ella.
It's basically its limbs are all blown off, and Watkins we see its little eye like looking for mercy. It's actually
It's
scared.
like the first time they like kind of make you feel some sort of sympathy for those bugs.
For the
You're
bugs.
like,
And then
oh wait,
Watkins
maybe they're
is
not
just
just like monsters.
like shooting it. Remember like when we played D&D and Chris Conforti just like hung all those bandits for like no reason. This was basically
It's brutal.
right. It was brutal, but like
5 people are gonna get that joke. 5.
And I think like
And
3
they're
of them
gonna
are in
find
the
it.
room.
They're gonna find it hilarious.
4 of them. So Johnny gets promoted by his teacher. So here's a weird, interesting point I just want to bring up. So you only lose your rank if you die, or
they find someone better.
find someone better.
But that never happens.
Right. So
No, that happens. That happens with Busey,
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, but they get transferred to another unit. Like that unit is essentially dissolved.
Do you think they just say that to keep you on your toes?
Maybe.
Like, oh,
No,
I'm being
I
judged.
think this is the perfect thing. So Michael Ironside, they're walking through this valley of rocks and stuff, and he sees a couple of the rocks are like crumbling. He knows something's up there.
That's not the scene. That's a little bit down the road actually.
Right, and he sees like, like some stuff crumbling, and then even Johnny Rico kind of notices.
And then he sends the guy
he
up.
sends
the
a guy
guy,
up
yeah.
there. He's like, oh hey, you know what?
His second in command.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, can you
This
go
is the
up there
part I
and
was
check
talking
it
about
out?
earlier. Yeah.
And so he sends the guy, and sure enough, there are bugs up there. So do you think he sent him to his death so he could
get Johnny.
Yeah. Because when he that's the part. So he shoots the guy and he
Right.
says, "Hey Rico, you're sergeant," and Johnny Rico smiles. There is zero empathy for this guy.
And he also says the line, which I loved, I'd expect any of you to do the same for me,
yeah.
which is great.
Wait, doesn't he
Right.
promote him because he kills the big giant bug?
That's how he gets to corporal. So he goes from corporal to sergeant real quick. This also
Yeah.
introduces a part of this movie that I didn't realize until I watched it this time, where there are so many scenes in this movie where a commanding officer will tell someone to do something, and then they will immediately turn around
And tell
somebody else to do it.
do it.
It happens like 5 times. It's just like, "Yep, go to the-"
So how much time have you spent in the corporal realm or the corporate realm? Because that's how it happens all the
Yeah,
time.
exactly, yeah.
My boss tells me to do something, and I tell
Yeah,
Rory
this is
to do
my
it.
career. Just it's like being a pro delegator.
And I just leave.
And then he leaves. It doesn't get done, and then I'm left to do it for him.
Yeah.
But you've glossed over a very important scene.
Yeah, no, but that all happens.
Yeah.
And we see where, that sergeant gets pretty much shot by Michael Ironside.
He gets poked with a spider leg or the insect leg, and then instead of the Ironside aiming at the bug, he aims at the dude, shoots him right in the chest or head,
Yeah.
and then he's out and doesn't even attempt to kill the bug after that, right?
Right.
No.
And I only just realized it now, but Johnny suffers a way more severe wound than this guy
does.
when
And-
he shoots
yeah.
and kills him.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, do you feel like he sent him to his death so he
The guy
could promote?
definitely has issue with the radio, and he says go
Right.
up there, but like there was probably other areas that they could have gone to prior to, But yeah, I agree that there's definitely some funny business with the roughneck hierarchy,
Yeah.
which is further established in a certain party scene.
Yeah, oh yeah. So at the celebration, Dizzy and Johnny, they finally get together.
But before that,
they're all hanging out and
Okay.
partying, and
we had the red mashed potatoes. We are definitely 700 years in the future because we have a neon green fiddle. This is the best. This is my Cyrano. I expect so Ratchick says I expect the best and give the best. The best to Ratchick is one keg
fiddle.
of beer, 1 green fiddle, and 2 footballs.
Yes.
This is gonna tip the scales in the war.
yeah. And
And then
We
they-
work hard, we play hard.
He just right.
Going
How does
right
he
at
know
it.
there's a fiddler on the team? And right, so Jake Busey starts playing the fiddle, and people start dancing and stuff like that. I'm gonna be real with you. If I just survived a battle with the bugs,
And a dude breaks out a
the fiddle,
fiddle?
I'm like, hey, shut the fuck up!
I need to think.
Grieving over here.
I just lost 3 of my closest friends. The PTSD hasn't settled in yet. Can we
I got
stop
the
with the fiddle?
100-yard stare going on over here. I don't need to hear.
yeah,
The devil went down to Georgia and Jake.
cut it. So
Desi's shitting like a dog's.
Ace, cool it with the fiddle, man.
Blues Traveler.
Play Blues Traveler.
Okay, go on about the
Oh
intimate
yes,
moment between.
So Dizzy and Johnny, they finally get together, and
Ironside shows up, and he
Yes.
has the foresight to know. No, but I like before when they're like kind of hanging out. He
says to him,
he says to
Yeah.
what's
he gives
the
him
line?
advice.
He gives him
he's
the
like,
advice
Once asked
of
me for advice.
yeah,
yeah,
which was nice because he was like, listen, just accept, essentially lower your standards, bang this girl because she's probably gonna die, and then you can get with the girl that you really want to get with. So I mean, it was beautiful to me, and I think that was word for word from the movie, right?
Pretty sure it was.
It was okay. I like that.
direct
And then let's
dialogue.
lead up to my favorite. Can I get right to my favorite line in the movie?
Oh, sure.
This is one of mine too.
Have it, please. You're
No,
the
no,
guest.
go-
No,
no, go
you're
for
the
it. No, go
guest. Have at it because I'm getting to my notes to see if I actually have the quote. But you go ahead.
Well, they're intimate, right?
Yeah.
First off, he like kind of knocks on the tent, which is weird, and then
Right.
she like hides.
Yeah.
Which is like, what are you like, 15?
Right.
Like, and then he's
Which
like,
I also kind of established that nudity isn't a big deal.
right,
in
yeah,
that
right.
world.
They,
Right.
they,
It's like, what are you
live
covering
co-ed
up for?
dorms, right? Like,
Yeah.
like this is not unusual. And anyways, and he's like, Rico, I need you 10 minutes, General Owen. And he's
He's
like,
like, who's that under there?
Flores, sir.
Yeah.
Make it 20.
Make it 20.
Ace, I'm gonna need you to get in there and give them some nice ambiance.
He's like, let's get it out.
I need you to
so
start
weird,
doing
because-
that
'cause that's
fiddling.
not the end of the scene.
Right.
Ironside zips the tent back up, and then they look at each other like,
20
that
minutes?
work?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, we got time.
20 minutes is good.
But just so you know, that is not my favorite
really?
line in the movie.
I thought for sure.
No, my favorite line in the movie is who's the guy that I'm talking? Suspenders.
Oh, Watkins.
So Watkins walks up to Rico and he goes, "Rico,
Oh, this is good.
pause." Gives it a beat, and then he says, "You kill bugs good.
He's like Tonto. Like
Base bugs bad."
So, not great acting there. That's followed up. That's also followed up by horrendous acting by Casper. So Watkins goes to dance with Diz.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he goes over and he's like, Watkins, beer? And that's like
Yeah.
Watkins' cue to like get at it. It's like wait, what? And he hands him his cup, not Watkins. Like he hands him Rico's cup.
Fucking's like, great.
So I texted Rory and EJ last night, and it says, "Rico, you kill bugs good." Was written down on paper, actually made it through production, made it through post. Astonishing.
What was my response?
Line you know like.
So good.
So the next
So
day.
good. So good, so bad, but so good.
So good.
You're welcome.
So the
Thank
next
you.
day, this,
Something does happen at a distress call is given during it, and that's why they have to move
Right.
out.
So yeah, they're about to move
That
out.
10 minutes was
Yeah.
clutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next day, they're moving out.
I wonder what
and-
he did with those other 7 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. So then Johnny, they reach this outpost, and it's like a massacre. They find all these like dead bodies just like ripped apart.
So this is where I kind of was lost. What was that? Was an outpost? Like that was they had a base there already built on this planet, or what? Explain
This-
to me why that was there.
I think this was actually where they were trying to see if there was a brain bug on the planet. Because
So they had knowledge of this.
when General Owen comes out of the locker,
Yeah.
he says
Okay.
something to the like of, I couldn't, like he knew that the brain was there. He's like, I couldn't let them get me because of all the knowledge that I have.
Because Ironside was pissed that he
Right,
survived.
right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so which is played by Marshall Bell, Coach Schneider from Nightmare
Oh,
on
from
Elm
Nightmare
Street 2.
2?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the principal
That's him.
from Hamlet.
The general. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love the look on his face when you give him a fact like that. That he's just generally surprised by. It's like, oh, it's wonderful.
I spend like a third of my life dead inside.
No, that's good.
It gives me a little tidbit here and there.
Rory,
It's
I'm
my
not gonna-
treat.
I'd love to see you happy like that.
Oh, that's weird because I don't like seeing you happy at all.
That makes sense.
And they like
Can I have some of your tears?
You could
Marshall Bell was also in Dean Norris were in the last Paul Verhoeven movie, which would have been like Total Recall at that time. Oh, no,
Wait, Verhoeven did Total Recall? What else
Yeah.
did he do?
Showgirls.
I knew that was next. You could have went to Hollow Man. Hollow Man was an option.
But Showgirls was the funny.
I'm so happy I asked that question.
Yeah, because it's like
If you look at his filmography,
No, I
man,
haven't.
That's awesome.
This is like new to
Basic
me.
Instinct.
Really?
Yeah, that's him.
Showgirls kind of hurt him. Like
Yeah.
he really had a good thing going. And
Wait,
and
was
kinda-
that a flop? No, I thought that
Showgirls?
was.
Yeah, it was like
That was
historically bad.
Yeah.
I
That
thought
was-
because it was NC-17, it was like this huge thing that everybody
No.
went to see. No, it wasn't.
no.
It was.
A lot
It's
of hype
now
built
like
up around
a
it.
cult
yeah,
movie though.
Yeah,
Like
but
it's
for a
like-
long
like
time,
in,
it was-
in like a The Room kind of way.
right. Yeah, not in like like a.
I don't think there's people
favorable
watching,
way.
saying like, "Oh, this was
Yeah.
actually like a misunderstood movie." It's
was-
kind of accidentally hilarious.
It was like a late night talk show punchline for the longest time.
Oh, like on
Jay
Arsenio
Leno got a lot
Hall
of
and
mileage out of that
okay,
movie.
okay.
So the general starts to tell, Michael Ironside and the gang about the brain bug and how it sucks the brains out of people's skulls, basically. And while this is happening, they get a surprise attack by a bunch of arachnids.
Did you mention them picking his head up off the board and him dipping his hand into the hole on
yeah,
top
Michael
of his head?
Ironside at one point dips his fingers in.
I
He's
love
like,
that.
he was a
brains-
teacher after all. He did have to
Right.
see. He had to
Yeah.
verify that the brain was
Yeah.
in fact not
That
there.
brain's missing for
And
sure.
so yeah.
not that the military man is dead. It's like we got to check to see if the juice is still in there.
Yeah. So we see where all these bugs start attacking. So Rico, Dizzy, Ace, the whole squad, they're holding out pretty well until a jump ship can get there. And they're like, we're going to have to send a crazy pilot. He's like, send the craziest one you got. And who would that be?
Of course it was.
You know what's a really cool shot? I like when Michael Ironside kind of goes off to the side at one point, and then he just looks over the side.
Oh,
and there's
yeah.
just
It's
like millions of them.
I wonder if World War Z would copy this like years later when they have like the zombies like almost coming over like the wall in Israel, like it's
Using
just like
the bodies of
dead
the
bodies
dead.
to get up and over.
It's
Yeah.
intense because you're just like, man, if a pilot doesn't get there, they're fucked. Because there's just like nothing you can do at that point.
A couple things about this scene. The first is the general implies that the brain bug can make people do things when he gets in their head, right?
Right.
This is never verified. In fact, when we see the brain bug later, all he does is the sucky, right?
Right.
Like that's the only thing that he's capable of doing, right? And it's funny because when Michael Ironsides gets the call, when they're at the party, it says General Owen is making the call. And he's saying that this assistant is, right? And this is going to kind of play into what I was saying about the Sky Marshal knowing and sending them there and stuff like that. That this is all a performance by the Federation to snuff out this brain bug, right?
Right.
That from the base.
So
to
when they were
everything.
all like lined up on the planet, I was thinking that there was the brain bug was controlling her and telling to line everybody up for just their execution.
When they flee here, right?
Right.
All of the fleet ships are already
They're
ready
all
to,
in line.
They're ready to go. They basically just needed the confirmation that the brain bug was there essentially, which is what they got from this.
Yeah.
The other thing
Weird
about this,
question. Oh, go ahead.
the biggest MVPs in this movie, the two guys up in the tower. If you were doing like a who kills the most bugs, the tower guys are they should Rico should be out because they're the real killers of the bugs.
Yeah.
They are dynamos. I keep using dynamo, but
They exit the movie in a very sad way.
Yeah, they do.
They're just like running.
and
burning.
Xander with a very weird showing of empathy, right? Of all the characters that display empathy, he holds the boat to try to save them when they are obviously goners, right?
Right.
And the Roughnecks were ready to get the heck out of there, right?
Yeah.
So interesting.
Xander's not a bad guy. He's even like when he gets on the ship and he's like, I think you should know your buddy.
Yeah,
Rico's back
yeah.
Rico's back there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because we didn't talk about that, but Carmen believes Rico is dead at this point because
Yeah.
after the big battle, she
He
goes
was
to
KIA.
she goes to like Wikipedia and
Yeah.
like looks him up and it says KIA.
With the what?
I think that's kind of sad. Like that's an interesting visual. Like she pulls his name up, and then you slowly see it just kind of disappear into
to,
the
like,
sea of
a
names,
giant mass,
which
yeah.
is like to be forgotten
Very
in
effective.
time.
And I also like the line of "There's almost no injured.
Yeah.
They're all dead."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we were saying before about how they said that they could like kind of control your actions and make you do things, and you were saying that it hasn't been established that the bugs.
Oh, right. Like
Is it possible that Carl
this is going to be significant for the final battle,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because
I actually wrote this down.
because like I said,
as
there's
well.
the duality between the brain bug and this is a chess match between Carl and the brain bug.
Yeah.
Because it's like by the looks of it, the brain bug definitely showed up because it saw the base and it was trying to get the military intelligence. But at the same time, Carl sent those people there to suss out the brain bug so he can get him, right?
So he thinks like the bug's doing it, but it's possible that Carl is making.
I would say in this instance, it's Carl is pulling the strings. Like he's not controlling anyone with his mind yet, but
Carl is luring out the brain bug.
yes, he's actively positioning his units to draw out that, which is why the fleet people are already ready, because they were on the ready. They just needed the confirmation that the brain was there, and they essentially this operation provided that.
I bet you're great at chess.
I'm terrible.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but we see where the ship arrives, but unfortunately, Dizzy. So she takes out one of those huge beetle bugs on her own,
Which is awesome.
and
She
it's
just-
awesome.
She just celebrates, and she should have learned, because another person celebrates in front of the big bad Beetleborg
Right.
and also gets killed.
Yeah. And so
I love the pulling of a pin and waiting with your mouth, right?
yeah.
That's one of those things I've always wanted to do in life. I don't know why. I would love to pull the pin out of a grenade with my mouth and then throw it.
Hey, the
Right.
fourth
Doesn't
is
even have to be-
the fourth is just around the corner. We can get enough beer in you. You can live out
If she
that
only
dream.
flips the
Accomplished.
freehold.
Right.
She would've been alive.
Yeah. So unfortunately, she turns her back.
Did you like when the bug swallowed it and it goes boop?
And that same bug, like huge beetle, is the one that kills Michael Ironside. And
Correct.
He, chews him in half, and Rico has to make the decision.
You know what to do.
Yeah. and
I love that part. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's emotional.
So
Yeah.
Rico
It's-
shoots his teacher
But it's
in the
also
heart.
like, hey, the dude that gave us our papers, he doesn't have legs. You're going to be fine. It's okay. You can sit behind a
can
desk.
make it,
Come on.
man.
I like how they
It's like,
immediately
you know what
violate
to
this
do.
rule, because they just lug Dizzy right on, like onto the ship. It's like, we leave our men behind. It's like, well, let's get her on
Yeah.
board.
But
She's part
Yeah,
of the
d-
principal cast.
She seemed far more less likely to survive than him.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have yanked that thing out of her body, because it's like so brutal when he rips it out. I'm like, her internal organs are
It's
just being
probably stopping the
shredded.
blood
Yeah.
from
Can-
pouring out of
yeah.
the body.
Can we talk about Dizzy's death scene?
Oh my god, yeah.
I feel
Did
like-
you find like it really emotional?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as a kid, this did nothing for me. And when I watched this earlier today, like I felt like very sad about the
Yeah.
scene.
I got a little misty.
I actually did too.
Because she says two things. She said, I got to have you.
Yeah.
Right? Which is really sad, because it was like
Yeah.
a one night kind of thing, right? And you know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
that's all she wanted, but it's like, we were talking about characters' motivations all night, right? Like, that just seems weak, right? That like
Right.
that it's like almost kind of, you almost kind of feel bad. There's pity there, I guess, right?
Right.
And then, so she says that, and then the next line is, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. So it's
Yeah,
like,
she's like,
she
"Don't let me
immediately
go."
walks that back.
She
Like,
feels
yeah.
the pain of
Yeah.
about what's to happen.
Yeah, she's just
Right.
like
She was
she's
great-
like
she
screaming
was
like,
great.
"Don't let me
yeah,
go."
it was fantastic. Yeah.
If
Yeah,
Matt
her
Rinaldi were
acting
here, he
is,
would
like,
say,
outstanding.
great actor.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it was great acting, and it's crazy because I thought about this too while watching the scene. Her death scene is really powerful. It's kind of like Talia al Ghul. Remember in like The Dark Knight? She just like, and she just dies. Do you remember that? Or did you see The Dark Knight Rises?
Dark Knight Rises, yeah.
I mean, I've seen it, but
What are they?
Oh, okay.
What are they in a bank?
yeah, doesn't he like she gets run over by a car? Like it's like he busts through the wall, or am I completely making that?
Yeah, she's in the jet, and she just goes,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm dying, and like she just goes, but like you could see Dina Meyer,
Yeah.
she who plays Dizzy, puts all this like effort into it.
Yeah, she was
It's
great.
gross. She has
bloody
like
mouth.
There's like
bloody
the
mouth.
blood
you can
on
see
the
the blood in her
teeth.
teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
That bothered me.
That and then
But that seems real. Could be,
Yeah.
and I bet like, is he gonna kiss her with that mouth? With the is he
What
gonna
if
give
she
her one
went for a
last?
kiss and he was like, nah,
Nah.
let's not ruin this moment.
Ugh, no.
Yeah, this is the only scene in the whole movie that made me feel
has
like
emotional-
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it has that emotional weight, and then also it's kind of weird because she has like blood all over her face of the enemy, but then we also see her own blood too, which is kind of like, man, I don't know. It's a really, really great scene, and I thought like great acting.
It also leads to what I think is Casper Van Dien's best acting in the movie.
Yeah.
It's when he goes up into the cockpit.
Oh, he has that look.
That
Anger.
look of, it's like anger, and he's like traumatized, and he's devastated. It's like all this stuff all at once, and it's just like, it's so good.
And he requests the nuke. which they immediately deny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I have other plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Fleet has other plans for Planet P or something like that. Like,
It's like, we
No, I
have
was
plans
just there.
for P,
I seen.
and you have to go do your Star Trek II funeral.
yeah.
So then my question to this is, he wants to nuke the planet. Neil Patrick Harris doesn't because he has other plans for it.
right.
Why not just nuke the planet? What do they get something out of the brain bug, or do we need to wait for two? Or why not?
I think like they wanted the brain bug. It wasn't about just really,
the specimen, they wanted to have it to study it.
study it.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
it's
right, okay.
probably-
I'll take that.
But yeah, no,
Because
so,
they know that. My thing is, they know that's the problem. They have a solution. They could just nuke the planet. Why don't they just do that and then it be over?
But
I
there
don't-
might be
okay.
some part of it where it's like, we want to know what that bug knows. Like, maybe it has something that we can exploit.
Maybe there's another brain bug on another. Okay.
Yeah,
And
or
maybe there
their
is, like,
operations, like how they're communicating, because there's clearly some communication. It's interesting because when we think of a lot of bugs, we think of them as like hive-minded, right?
Right.
Whether it's like real life or like a lot of times in like movies,
Right.
they often are hive-minded, and it's like they're trying to establish that. Well, meanwhile, like Neil Patrick Harris is also an actual person who is communicating with his mind, right? Which is interesting.
yeah. So they get back to the ship, and we see this, like Johnny reunites kind of with Carmen and stuff, and they have this funeral for Dizzy, which is the only funeral we actually see throughout this whole movie. And again, it's the only time we see all this carnage throughout the whole movie, people dying left and right. But this is like the first time we actually see people are in mourning.
Do you know why? Because she was the most human.
The human, yeah. But she was awesome. But also on board is Carl, Neil Patrick Harris, who looks super rugged and tired now. Like the war has like definitely
Drained him.
right. And he almost looks like a victim of a brain bug in a weird way because it's like very gaunt.
But he also looks like that's like what happens to you when you fall victim to some type of obsession.
Yeah,
Like, he looks like he probably just like stays up all night thinking about that bug.
right.
Am I the only person that got
No,
that?
no, I feel you on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it weighs on you.
He seems like he's obsessed with his work.
Yeah.
Like, he's like living for it,
You could tell that from his other scenes of how invested he is in everything that's going on.
There's also like a subplot that I guess they cut out of the movie where like Cyrano swore revenge on him. And he's like, I'm going to find you in this giant galaxy. Do you remember that scene? Did you?
I remember it.
Yeah. Great scene. So we see where Carl is filling them in on their new mission, which is to capture a brain
Which I
bug.
thought the movie was over by now. But
Oh,
no, there's
right.
25 more minutes. to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a long.
This is a long movie.
Yeah. And as Carl is about to walk away, and we see that this time when they like embrace each other, it's very like cold. No one's like high-fiving or putting their hands on each other. You know what I mean? Like in
Carl's
terms
very for the greater good already. Like,
right.
No more hands in the center, go team.
Yeah. And so he fills them in, and as he's walking away, he promotes Johnny to lieutenant. He's like, "Hey, you're gonna have to be the lieutenant now and like lead the team." And
Like, until I die. or
yeah.
you find somebody
someone
better.
yeah, so good.
And
Johnny
then he immediately wants to promote Ace,
Yes.
and he's like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah. And then we see where Johnny gets a bunch of new recruits, and they're all, like I mentioned this earlier, they're all kids. Like, and they do a great job with the directing and casting and stuff by casting real life teenagers in that role, because it now makes the characters kind of seem established.
already
like Johnny
seem-
Rico
yeah.
and stuff.
world weary.
Yeah. And even though he's only a year older than
Yeah.
these guys, really. But it's awesome. So then we see where Carmen's ship literally gets blown in half this time by the same thing that almost blew her up last time.
What did they say that was? At first, I didn't think it was a threat. They're like, "Oh, it's just ambient light."
Okay, so it'll be light and infrequent, and that's in the first battle. Or like
Yeah,
the
right.
the mini
Like
user
at the
come
very beginning, they don't even like think of that giant ball of energy as being
like-
a threat.
out. And Buenos
Yeah,
Aires was
fine.
literally destroyed by a meteorite, and these things are shooting meteorites. So it's like, oh, that's not a problem. I can't think of a single
be
situation
fine.
where that would be bad.
Bugs are just trying to set a mood.
And it's funny because we were talking about it earlier, but this is the second time it appears in the movie. the greatest villain of them all, the Door, which then proceeds to crush Sue Ellen Mishke, heiress of the O. Henry Candy Bar Empire. That's Seinfeld.
We see where the captain literally gets killed by a door.
By a door.
It's just like,
And it's like, we just pull her. We can go one way or the other. No, I'm just going to stand here.
Hey,
and just
yeah.
do you guys want to try opening the door?
No, it's too
moving
late.
really slow down. Too. It's not.
It's not like it like shoots
No,
down.
yeah, it's not like a guillotine. This door is not. This is not the French Revolution of doors. This is a very gentle kind of crushing.
But yeah, so Carmen and Xander, they get to an escape pod and they get out in time, but they crash land on the bug planet, right in the tunnels where all the bugs are kind of like hanging out
On the planet that Johnny Rico... Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
What are the odds of her
Well, I mean,
picking
they're
up...
like right above the planet. I guess it makes sense. But it is
It
funny
sucks
that
they landed in the Bugs break room.
yeah, they're like by the water cooler.
What the fuck?
You catch that new episode?
Did you see Seinfeld last
the
night?
Traitors.
That's where Bug Taylor Swift is about to go on. It's like there are so many bugs in this. It's
What,
not,
Swift?
yeah.
Yeah. Did you watch the Bug Bowl?
Because I can't really speak to bug society, right? But like, there are more bugs in this room than any other room that we've seen.
They just keep cutting to Taylor Cricket Swift, and I don't understand why. But we see that the arachnids, they actually injure Xander and Carmen, but they keep them alive. They like drag them into like this one room, and Carmen gets a really nasty like.
It's like a shoulder injury, I would call it. Yeah.
It's rough. And then where Xander gets
It's not
like
as
a
bad as that scratch she had above her eye.
no.
Can you imagine her like in the Bacta tank for just a scratch? It's like Xander comes over like, Carmen, 4 days, and then he kisses the tank.
That's a good Xander too. 4 more days. So
EJ, so obviously
Yes.
in comes the brain bug, right?
yes. So Rico leads a team to the tunnels, and he breaks off with Ace and Watkins to find Carmen because he gets like a feeling. He's like, wait, I think I should go this way.
Yes.
Now
This
This is absolutely Carl.
This is Carl.
Doogie Howser
Yes.
sending him... Okay.
So, like, this is where, at the point, and I was going to bring this up, too, especially when he not confronts Carl, but asks Carl, like, hey, did you send me the message? And he's not really open about
It's because
that's
it's bullshit.
Right.
It's he doesn't give a fuck about Carmen and Xander.
Right.
Think about this scene. The mobile infantry is going down this way, right? And
They're
when
obeying the orders.
right? And when he proposes it to go, when he's like, Carmen's this way, Watkins even mentions like, but A company's going that way, and they'll hang you for this, right? But what happens when Rico shows up? The brain bug moves.
Right.
He doesn't care if Xander or Carmen live. He wants to flush the brain bug to where the full mobile infantry's moving.
Right.
This is a tactical design to capture the brain bug.
So while you think he may be helping Johnny Rico, he's actually using Johnny Rico as bait to get what he wants.
Absolutely.
He
knows
for
that
the
Johnny Rico.
species, boys and girls.
You can almost argue that he put him there. You can't argue her crash landing, but he's an opportunist. And that's what I'm saying is he clear. I think that's to be said that he knows that he will go save Carmen, and he knows that Carmen is with the brain bug. So he is sending Johnny there with a nuke to flush the brain bug out of that position to try to probably move it to where the rest of the mobile infantry is moving.
And it also, I think it speaks on a higher level that these military, like the infantry and everybody, they don't have like free thinking anymore. Because if you have someone who's like controlling your thoughts that.
In the military, if you're given a mission, it doesn't matter anything that you have to complete the mission.
Right.
Yeah.
And Carl confirms this. He literally just tells Rico in 2 scenes prior that he's doing this for the species.
Right.
Like, and I guess so I'm sure probably someone listening to this who would disagree would say, oh, well, now he has a change of heart and stuff, like, right? Like, but like, you are never given that implication even when they reconvene again. Like, even when they meet up at the end, like, he still has that cold look in his eyes and stuff like that, right? That,
and that SS officer.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that he doesn't want Carmen to live. I'm not suggesting he sent her, because like I said, I don't think he had any control over that, right? He didn't shoot down the ship. But what I am suggesting is that her living or dying is not his main focus. And he saw this as a means to an end to get what he really wants, which is the brain bug.
Yeah. So, yeah, meanwhile, like, Carmen and Xander, they meet this brain bug, and it ends up killing Xander by sucking his brains out. And
What a great death.
Carmen actually is able to use a knife in this
Because
scene,
Xander, sly, on the
Right.
sly, throws her his knife.
and
yeah.
she's able to cut off, like, the stem
If he
or...
held
straw.
on, if he
Yeah, like
held
the
on,
straw thing.
The
if he
Slurpee
held
straw.
on to that thing, then he probably could have lived, and she could have lived, and the exact same thing would have occurred.
Right?
He should have just held on to that thing.
So then...
And you would think, because he was impaled in the leg and she was impaled in the shoulder,
Which you
he'd
can't
have,
really swing.
Yeah,
at
yeah,
her.
he'd have a better shot at it than,
It's a good thing she's a righty.
I'm a lefty, take this, I have to die.
Luckily,
It's like, wait a minute, Carmen, are you a lefty? Hold on, let me
slides that back over to you. So Rico arrives just in time and he saves Carmen, but Watkins gets injured, but he sacrifices himself by, blowing off a nuke to like close off the tunnel and keep the bugs at bay.
Yeah.
And again, force the bugs down,
yeah,
a different
where
path.
the A team is
A
gonna
company.
go. A company, yeah.
And one of those classic lines, just leave me behind.
Yeah.
Go, save yourself. Leave me behind.
And as
like
he's
that.
dying, he's like,
Want some? Get some. Yeah.
He was pretty good, though.
yeah,
he held
he
off those
was,
bugs.
yeah.
He gave
You
them...
just send my family my suspenders.
Yeah, in like the beginning, like killing a bug was hard. He has a mountain of bugs by the time he's done. He
yeah.
just he saw the brainstem training. Like
Yeah,
he was just
like-
unleashing.
That is kind of funny. It's like at the beginning, it just seems like they're emptying like clip after clip after clip just to kill one.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie, they're just like
Yeah.
they're all just dropping.
Yeah, especially with the shotgun and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
It's like a pile.
Right. It's like, why don't you just use the shotgun if it's that
all the
effective?
time. Yeah, why don't you use
Right,
it all the time?
they're clearly close range fighters. This is extremely effective. Look at the bones.
So Zim, we find out. So everyone escapes the tunnels. Carmen, Ace, and Rico, and we eventually see where Zim captures a brain bug. Neil Patrick Harris goes up to the brain bug, and he puts his hand on it, and he's like, "It's afraid! It's afraid!" And everyone's
And people
cheering. Yeah,
That triumphant music.
It's good.
It's nice and disturbing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, they don't learn anything.
Also, the theme song to this movie is a bang.
yeah. He did RoboCop too. The
He did
composer.
RoboCop too? Or he
Well,
did
no,
RoboCop
he did RoboCop
also?
as well. Yeah.
Frank Miller did RoboCop too.
Yeah. So then we see where Zim.
But did he do 3?
Oh, yeah, might have did right.
I think
I
Irving
think it was 3.
Kershner was 2.
Oh, you think you're right.
Yeah, it was 3.
Sorry, Frank. Yours was
Frank
so bad.
just turned off this podcast.
But everyone's cheering, and then it goes to the ads, and all the ads are showing that the war is still going on, and they need you still to keep at the. Yeah.
I
don't
love
know.
how all of your main characters are being like cycled out, you know?
Yeah.
You know, they just basically rise up in
Yeah.
the ranks, only to probably be killed somewhere down the road, and then somebody will replace them, and then somebody will
injured
replace
or
them. And
So interesting because once again, this is propaganda, right? So
Right.
like, effectively, having them capture the brain bug could do nothing, right? Like,
Yeah.
you really at the movie ends kind of not being able to trust anything they say, really.
That, and then also.
all we learned is that they like to eat moss.
and Johnny's to the point where he's such a weapon now that like you could tell like there's just nothing between
humanity.
him
Yeah,
and
he's like
Carmen
his-
anymore.
His humanity's gone.
But yeah, that also could be Carl just putting that like mental block into
yeah.
like just hey, you're a weapon now.
In the book, that kind of is a thing where it's like he does kind of join because of a girl, and by the end he has no interest in women whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
That was like a very.
He just wants to kill.
Yeah,
things.
that's a very important.
He
plot point in
sells
book.
that.
Yeah.
Like visually speaking, like it's just whatever was in that class.
And it's so interesting because he's not.
It's gone.
Yeah, and he's like quoting Ratchet, right? Like all his stuff is jingoist bullshit. Like he didn't make any of that up. He's just repeating what he had heard, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just.
You want to live forever.
It's as much a propaganda as the actual propaganda films are, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. Overall, I love this film. I think it still holds up. Like some of the special effects are still pretty amazing for this movie. How did you feel?
So what was really cool, I told you this, I bought that 4K.
Yeah.
It looked so beautiful. Like the special effects in this movie do hold up really well. You know, I think the movie is really enjoyable. I always get real excited to watch it. I had such an amazing time watching it last night. So I don't know if it has flaws. I can't see them. I have the rose-colored glasses on, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan of this movie. It's probably one of my like go-tos, you know, like something I would just watch if I just wanted to like kind of chill out and
Right.
you know.
Casey, how did you feel?
Is this where we're doing like our full review?
Yeah, go for it.
I have complex feelings about this movie. I think that I don't know. I think that this movie was made with a certain intent in mind, and I don't necessarily think they landed it in execution. Like I think that they did not live up to it. Like I don't think after seeing it as many times as I have, I can answer the question: is this a pro-war or anti-war movie? And that's what led me to looking up the book.
I don't think you're supposed to know.
Right. It's one of those ones where it's like, I think just because of the discourse and reviews of this movie, right? And I was like, okay, so maybe the book was anti-war. This kind of was accidentally pro-war, right? And I looked up the book and the reviews of the book at the time. So the book did win the Hugo Award in 1961. It was published in 1960. But even then, it was criticized as being too fascist and supporting a military-industrial complex, right? So it feels like the errors of the book were also the errors of the movie as well. Right. So for me, I think the legacy of this movie is, I'm going to give you another sci-fi movie, and that is John Carter, failed Disney movie.
Right.
Where that movie was obviously based on a book written in the 1920s or 1930s. Edgar Rice Burroughs, correct.
Yeah.
And it went on to influence George Lucas to make Star Wars. But like any good thing that's influential, Star Wars is an enhancement of John Carter of Mars, right? It's this and then some more, right? And when the movie John Carter comes out, everybody in the world has seen Star Wars. So chronologically, it went John Carter and then Star Wars. So seeing John Carter when everyone has seen Star Wars, it looks retroactive. It looks like steps behind, right? That's what I think of when I think of Starship Troopers, is that this book created the idea of the Space Marine. I saw that James Cameron made them read Starship Troopers before filming Alien.
Yeah.
That Warhammer was influenced by Starship Troopers. One of the things that was not in the movie was that the mobile infantry uses armored robots at parts that was seen by people in Japan, and they made the Gundam series as an influence of Starship Troopers. The footprint that this movie has in modern science fiction is ridiculous. And so many of those things, from Gundam to Aliens, handles the fascism in so much. That's the enhancement. That's the Star Wars enhancement, right? So when you see this, it looks like a failure, but it doesn't work like that. It came first. They built that, right? So of course, seeing this is going to look like two steps backward, but it wouldn't have been there without it, right?
Right.
And so I think this movie is awesome. I think there's amazing scenes and quotable lines and all of that, right? But I think that that's the legacy of it to me, is that it has this anachronistic quality where it's so influential that people have forgotten that it was there to influence, right? And now you look at it and you're like, well, this isn't, like, who would watch this over Aliens? I'm sure you might, Rory, but like for me, if I had to watch one or the other, I'm watching Aliens every time.
Right.
But if you think about it in the context where Aliens doesn't exist without this, I think it changes the story a little bit, right?
Right.
And that to me is Starship Troopers' legacy.
Yeah. I know I read where Paul Verhoeven talks about how he wanted to use fascism to show that it doesn't work. Like, his idea was, because he actually lived in like a Nazi-occupied Germany,
Right.
and his hope was to show, yeah, fascism isn't the way to go. Like, oh yeah, making it pro-military, but that's not what that's not what I want people to have or to do. So
I know I took up a lot of time, but I guess I have just one more thing to add.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm the guest here. I'll never be on a podcast again.
No.
Is that I recently came across a piece that was written about the director Truffaut, who kind of was an inventor of French like new
400 blows.
Yeah, exactly.
400 blows, yeah.
And they asked him about anti-war movies. They said they asked him, hey, you're a great director. He also loved movies. He was like a known cinephile, right? And they're like, how come you never made like a war movie? And he said, I can't make a war movie. It's impossible because I am anti-war. And sure, there are people out there who are going to make it and say these movies are anti-war. But the act of showing it, the act of displaying it, no matter, like, you can only create to a certain point that inevitably the audience might take something from that you don't want. And that the only good anti-war movie is an anti-war movie that doesn't exist because it's not feasible to show it, even if your heart is in the right place, that it's misinterpreted. And I just think of a lot of movies these days. This Starship Troopers, I think, is the case in point. But like, we think about Fight Club and The Joker and The Wolf of Wall Street. None of these are war movies per se, right? But these are movies that are done by a creator and then in some situations misinterpreted by the audience.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Starship Troopers' destiny is to be that, essentially that Truffaut quote, right? That like, maybe they set out to make an anti-war movie and
They actually accidentally made a pro-war movie?
a studio was involved. There was a lot of special effects in this movie for the late 90s, right?
Yeah.
Like, they got to sell tickets.
Yeah.
This is a summer blockbuster, right?
Right.
Like, at a certain point, like, they're going to probably allow Verhoeven to have his messages, but, like, their goal is to put butts in the seat, right?
Right.
And
Meat
I
in the
wonder
seat.
I wonder if that's where it gets, like, the water gets muddied, right? Where I'm sure probably an executive was like, no, we got to pump up the scenes that we were talking about.
violence.
The violence, the cool
dead
stuff,
bodies,
the
yeah.
explosions, those awesome nuke effects,
Yeah.
right? It's a glorification because they got to make a trailer, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And Vince, what your thoughts?
I enjoyed it. I would say they're really good at killing bugs, if I had to put it in a nutshell.
I love how Casey gave like this great analysis.
That's what I was going for.
Like from book to film and like John Carter.
All right, here-
and Star Wars, and you're like, they're great at killing things.
I couldn't do a better job.
You kill bugs good.
It's like a fly swarming around your head right now.
No thoughts up here. Here's what I'll say. I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. Rory built it up to me, and it lived up to the expectation for me. I think I'm going to love this movie on the third watch. I think I'm going to really enjoy it next time I watch it, and I'm going to watch this again. And I think by the third watch, I'm going to find all the little things that I absolutely love. But what I really want to talk about is, Casey, you were fantastic.
Yes,
you were.
yes.
No, I talk too much. It's
Hey, Pot, it's me, Kettle. You want to talk about talking too much? No, you were great. You sounded way more intelligent than any of us have ever sounded.
Trash.
Yeah.
You had asked me to be on this podcast more than a month ago, and we
Right.
kind of confirmed that the movie, 30 days in advance or so, which is good planning on your end. But since then, a game has come out that is essentially like Starship Troopers, in Starship Troopers cloning. Like, it's called Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
And it really has taken the internet by storm. So I just thought it was interesting because
It's viral.
It's viral. Yeah, this has never been more topical. So here you are. You accidentally stumbled your way into
Which we kind of luck out, I think. I think like it's like serendipitous in the sense that like this is happening and we're going to release this episode. And we did something recently where it was an uptick on a movie that we recently watched that hadn't been seen in a while. But go ahead, dude.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I really had. It's just, it kind of, it's I was talking before about building off of stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is much more comedic, right? Like,
Right.
you work for Super Earth. That's the name of it. There's no Federation. You're Super Earth. Like it's hilarious.
We may have been reading the same thing on the internet, but like it's literally taking the world by storm, and this many years later is shocking.
Right.
And the graphics, did you see like the graphics
Yeah.
on it? Just go to the internet and look for this because it looks awesome.
Yeah. This is more
Like
for
if you like the
you
movie,
two that-
you would play this game.
Exactly. Like I don't know, like who is coming. Like where is like the traffic here? Like it's like I think you guys should definitely look at it because I think your mind would be blown at how accurate this is to Starship Troopers, right?
Yes.
And I think if there's people out there who had only really watch this for Starship Troopers, I would highly recommend that because you really get that jingoism. Like you like the shooting of the bugs is very, very satisfying, right? And all the things you see in the movie, them come up and out of the ground, and you have them throw bombs in the hole. Like if you were like, man, I want to do some of this stuff, right? And the best part about the game is it's not just like a shooting game where you're just like like you are the mobile infantry, but you throw these grenades that bring like the fleet involved. So like you get these like giant orbital lasers coming down. Like you can fire a nuke, and oh my god,
You essentially can call for backup and
Yeah.
call for air coverage.
Yeah.
It's pretty. It
It's
looks
crazy.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's a crazy.
Yeah. So if you ever like were, when I was such a Starship Troopers fan that I played the AOL browser game, and we've come a long way since I think it was called Starship Troopers like Battleships or something like that. It was pathetic.
So one thing we like to do on the show, we like to give these movies a rating, and we use emojis to do it. So Casey, do you have any emojis prepared that you would like to share with
You're
us?
catching me off guard here. I gotta think about it for a second. I think the emojis that I would choose are the red circle, the waving hand,
Okay.
the knife,
That's a good one.
and the big red X, because you cannot press a button if you disable his hand.
Absolutely. Vince?
I got I don't know if this is the flag of Jamaica or it could be Georgia. I don't know, but it looks like their flag,
Yeah, I
the
like
Federation
that
flag.
flag,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that. And then I also have a dude in a cast
Oh,
for the
very
broken
good.
arm. And then where'd it go? Oh no, did I lose it? Oh no, I have a 20-minute timer.
Okay.
So it's a clock, but it's on the forehand for 20 minutes because he could have 10 minutes. But you know what? I'm going to give you 20 minutes.
Okay. All right. I have a robotic arm, a
Nice.
robotic leg, and a pregnant woman because the one wanted to get
She
pregnant.
wanted to be pregnant. That's all she
Yeah.
wants.
I got stuff too.
All right.
I got emojis.
All right, Rory.
What do you got, Rory?
I got a bunch of bugs I found. I found an ant. I found a caterpillar.
Do they have any ferrets?
I did not. Oh,
Oh,
wait,
hold on.
there-
Wait, give him a second. Wait, give him a second.
Oh, I don't have time.
Cyrano.
It's FER.
Hey, guess what? I'm just gonna lie. So I found an ant. I found a caterpillar. I found a ladybug. I found a CYRANO. I found fire because there's a lot of blown up stuff in this.
Fire.
Yeah.
I found a knife because a knife gets thrown into a man's hand. I found a rocket ship because they fly around in this fucking movie a lot.
I remember that.
I found a cat emoji because the sound in this movie was really upsetting Ella.
Oh,
Oh.
I
I
feel
just
bad.
saw her sitting on my floor looking real nervous.
Oh.
Well, who picked this movie?
Well, yeah.
You
Technically,
did?
yeah.
You upset Ella.
Well,
I know.
You're trying to point
unacceptable.
at me? Like
Well, I picked it
He
'cause
passed the blame
you-
so
who's
quickly.
not involved in the podcast.
He picked.
he just picked you up and threw you right under a bus.
It's like,
So yeah, you want to
I've
you
only
want to
seen
do
10
plugs?
movies ever, so
And 9 of them were Starship Troopers.
So, yeah, let's do plugs. So one thing we like to do is, like, if you have any projects or things that you're really interested that you would like to promote and plug, is there anything you would like to plug at this moment?
not really. I'm not really much on social media. I don't really have a presence. I do stream occasionally on twitch.tv/brainrap. That's not influenced by a brain bug. And that's rap, like WRAP, not
Wait, what is that and where can I find it?
twitch.tv.
So if I go to twitch.tv and what do I type in?
Brain, BRAIN, rap, WRAP.
Beautiful. That's
Yeah.
it. I just wanted you to do it again.
Yeah.
Anything
And
else?
You got the name from...
I got the name actually from movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never got to really tell that story, but yeah, like back when you had like film,
Projections,
a lot of people envision movies like in those like things where there's like 2 reels. That really isn't how like modern like megaplexes show movies. They actually have these like big apparatuses they call trees.
Platters.
Platters, yeah. And it was done by so you could have more than one movie on the tree, so that you can have maybe more than. It's easier to show the movies. Anyways, this was controlled through a device called a brain. So if you messed up, if there was something wrong with the film, say it was too humid in the projection booth, the brain would eat too much of the movie and then literally explode. And it was called a brain wrap, and it was like something that you would not want to have.
Yes.
Like having a brain wrap is like the worst case. It's bad. It's like, oh, we have to order like this reel again.
I used to actually work in a projection booth, and I'm very familiar with the brain.
He's worked in a projection booth.
Used to get to like build movies.
Yeah.
And, like,
My father was a union projectionist, and you also did it too, didn't you?
No, I didn't. No, I only like worked in projection once, but I
like a
mostly
porno theater,
I
right?
ran a porno theater. It was great.
Awesome.
How about Vince? What would you like to plug?
I'm gonna, and this is like honestly perfect. Once Rory hears this, he's gonna get it. I'm gonna plug a company called Pest Practice, which is owned by a guy named Ralph Steves, who's a guest at the bar. It is a pest control company. He also has a podcast. We talk to him all the time. You know Ralph, Big Ralph?
Oh, sure.
Pest Control. I mean, what better sponsor for a bug movie than Pest Control? So he's located in Dunmore, on 620 South Blakely Street, Suite 101 in Dunmore. His phone number is 570-390-7007. So if you have any pest concerns in Dunmore, please hit up our friend Ralph at pestpa.com.
All right.
And just to be clear, where's Three Jacks?
Three Jacks is located in Dunmore. We have a burger of the month. It's called the Lunchbox. It is an 8-ounce beef patty that is stuffed with peanut butter, topped with pepper jack cheese, and homemade bacon jam. And for one day only tomorrow, I'm going to put it on a Krispy Kreme donut.
Wow.
So call your fucking cardiologist and get your ass down here and have a burger with 2 donuts as a bun. It's going to happen. It's a thing tomorrow. We're doing it.
It's the most American thing you've ever said. Burger on a donut.
The official burger of the Federation.
And then Rory.
First thing I'd like to plug is our buddy Matt Rinaldi's business, Gravy Diggers.
Oh, man.
It's taken off.
You okay in there, Matt?
Yeah, he's been quiet in that closet.
In the janitor's
Lost sight
closet?
of what's real or not.
But
That's how we do.
Ravenview Productions. You can see it on the Facebook and on the YouTubes. Fourth Cut Reviews. It's another YouTuber feller. Variant Season. Our buddy Will Perna's band.
Our buddy Joe at what's Joe's Facebook?
Joe Petito.
Joe Petito.
NEPA Movie Mania.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's his group on the Facebooks.
And I'm always told, just look for a picture of, who does he always have? Does he always have Randy
Sylvester
Savage?
Stallone.
Oh, Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, you love
You will never meet a bigger Sylvester Stallone buff.
Yes, so I would like to plug really fast my friend Adam Farley's music. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes. He has a show coming up March 15th. It's going to be in Oliphant. And then also Jon Snow, our buddy, he has
So many bands.
3 bands, but he's
Red
playing a
Cat says.
whole show March 22nd at the Moon Tavern Ballroom up in Dixon City. So you could check that out. You could buy tickets. It's an all-day event. All his bands are playing, basically. And then last but not least, you could rate and review us on iTunes. Every little bit helps. So I think also if you do write a review, maybe we could read it on here for you guys. So maybe it'll help promote that a little bit more. But then also check out our Facebook and email us at freakquelpodcast@gmail.com. And Rory.
I have one last plug.
Yes.
Kitties of NEPA. Look them up on Facebook as well. You can donate
Time, money,
donate
food.
Food. It's where Ella came from. The Kathy here. Yeah, she loves when you do that.
I know.
Her ears
I'm
perk.
doing it for her.
That's where she came from. So if you want to help the Kitties of NEPA, that's your play.
Yeah.
Don't be a fucking prick and not do it, okay? You selfish assholes.
Do you hate cats? Why? Why wouldn't you do this?
Oh, and also we do have an Instagram too that you can check out, Freakquels Podcast, and we'll upload some photos there as well as on our Facebook group too,
And our OnlyFans account.
and our OnlyFans account. Yeah. But with that being said, though, Casey, thank you so much for coming
Hey, thanks
on.
for having me, yeah.
Please come back.
Yeah, you were great,
Whatever
dude.
movie you want to do, we're down. This was the first time we did basically just a science fiction movie. Most of the time we do
And
like,
not a
horror
sequel?
kind of based.
It's horror adjacent.
It's horror adjacent, yeah.
Oh no, I saw
But,
it as a horror movie with the jump scares, and there's a lot of jump scares and people running from
Yeah,
a villain.
I thought it was
yeah.
more like just like a sci-fi,
sci-fi? Okay.
action.
It
but,
does flirt there though.
Yeah, it has like
So then, wait, what do you classify? Is this a thriller or a sci-fi thriller? It's not sci-fi horror. Is
I
sci-fi
would
horror
say
a
action
thing?
adventure.
yeah, it was-
Action adventure.
Yeah,
Is
it's
sci-fi horror a
action.
thing or no?
Oh,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, like Aliens is.
You had
sci-fi
you had an
horror.
opportunity to mention one of your favorite movies, and you completely beefed it there.
Event Horizon.
Yeah, like it was literally set up for you.
What's Event Horizon?
Oh,
it's
my
amazing.
god. Oh, we're covering it eventually, 100%.
Okay.
But no, Casey, thank you so much, and please come back. Whatever movie you want to do, like we're on.
You're
board.
you're giving me too much power there because I am famous for having a bad taste in movies. So
And I just wanted to personally say sorry for not inviting you to my Starship Troopers party when we were children. I've grown a lot since then.
But
No, he hasn't.
I haven't.
He's grown more bitter somehow.
But guys, thank you so much for listening, and we appreciate you guys coming in every week, checking it out, sharing it with your friends, sharing it on Facebook. We see it, and
We're
so
growing,
we just
yeah.
want to acknowledge and say thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for listening to
see you on Helldivers.
Going to Zegama Beach.
Zegama Beach.